God is good.
He's alive. Go get our boy. One American behind enemy lines. Wounded. Surrounded. We bring him home.
Viper 1-2. Hang in there. We're coming. Coming in danger close. Keep your heads down.
Colonel, let's go home.
Package secure. Heading to extract.
Welcome to the next generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the AlphaWarrior Show. It's Saturday night, and yes, we're live. This is not a canned show. So I saw the chat. Alpha on a Saturday? Well, normally at 9 p.m. Eastern, we would have people, and we're going to be getting that back in the mix here pretty soon. But we have a lot to catch up to. It was hard to get back in sync. Again, this is a one-man production, but we do what we can here. Here's what I'm going to say first off is do me a solid and share this out. It looks like the sound is good for me on all of them, but this is a new soundboard. A lot of you guys know the story there. So if my volume's too low or it's too high, I definitely want to look for your guys' feedback in the live chat or in the comments. Let me know. so I can kind of gauge where the majority of people hear what adjustments I need to make. But I think over the course of a few shows, we'll dial it in. I think I got it close, anyways. But we're talking about episode 538, and what are we going to talk about tonight? You saw the trailer, right? Lego Rescue. We got about 2 weeks to catch up to. And for those of you who don't know, well, why on a Saturday night? If we would have tried to catch up to 2.5 weeks this coming Monday, we would have set, all right, good. 5x5's coming in there. We would have set a record. We would have beat that 5 hours and 5 minute mark. That's our record right now. That stands. And I don't want to do that. So I figured we could use this show to catch us up with the majority of some stuff. We're probably looking at about a 2.5 hour show tonight. Actually, legitimate. I think I'm accurate on that time. We will see. And this will set up for Monday again, where we'll have about another 2.5 hour show. So that's why we're doing it live tonight on a Saturday night. And if you're watching the replay, well, you still get the same information anyways. So again, Potus up all night. We're going to be covering that anti-vote operation. A lot of you know how important this is to me. And I'm definitely going to make an argument tonight. And if anything, if there was any part of this show that I would ask you guys to clip, share it on your shows, make it your own, share it in all the social medias, it's definitely going to be when we get into that section. And I got some goodies to help you make that argument. But we're going to go hard against this anti-vote operation that's eating up souls and useful idiots out there. We're going to get into D&I Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard 101. You might have seen some stuff in the headlines within the last 48 hours. I'm going to do my best not to touch on those things. I want to save it for Monday, but we'll see how it goes. We're going to be talking about 17 comms. We're definitely going to get into some goodies there. We're going to talk about the Pope, Crowdstrike, a little Seth Rich, and that's going to be setting us up for something that's coming in the future. So it's going to be a good show tonight. Went through it yesterday. X was having some issues today. So I wanted to put in evening time because they usually got everything secured by the evening time. But anyways, we're going to cover a lot, but those are the main things that we'll be covering tonight. So looks like we've got 5x5s. We're almost to 1,000 watching live on Rumble. Almost about 500 watching over there on YouTube. So thank you to the YouTube audience. I will be reading the Rumble rants at the end of the show tonight. But if you guys gift any subscriptions, if anybody becomes a member over there on YouTube, I'll definitely give you guys a shout out as soon as I got a pause in the show to do that. So we're back. I'm happy. I'm excited. And let's get into this. So let's pay some bills so we can get into the content. And the first one, of course, we're going to go with
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
And so before we get into the next one, you guys know, so my anniversary with Pet Club is this month. It was April of 2024 when I started this relationship with them. And you guys know they're definitely one of my favorites. And, you know, here's the main bottle. I take all four of them, but people always ask, if I could only get one, unless you're treating something specific, this one right here. And a lot of people ask, they're like, Alpha, do you really take it? So I took a couple. I think my evening salt regimen is 4 pills, but I was like, hey, let me get one right here. So you guys can watch me take some of my mushroom food live. Yes, I take this stuff. Absolutely. The other family I want to give a shout out to is my Badlands family, Soft Disclosure, right there. You guys probably see me on all the different shows, always going like this with the chapstick. I get chapped lips a lot, and this has definitely been doing me a lot of justice. So go over there to Badlands, get yourself some Soft Disclosure. Use promo code Alpha. I was informed by the ladies on the back end that they actually got a promo code. So if you go there and get some stuff, you do that. Now for the fellas, or maybe some of you ladies got mustaches, I ain't gonna be mad at you. But for the fellas that have beards, all right, we're very picky about beards, right? Sometimes they're too coarse, sometimes they're too soft. Sometimes I was not, I say alias, and I was definitely not microdosing. All right, these are mushrooms food, not the other mushrooms, folks. You know, you're very picky when you finally find a beard brush, and I've had a favorite for years. And so when the team over there at Badlands was getting ready to put a beard brush together, I was like, let's see if they get this, and they nail it. And right here, this brush is amazing, folks. Amazing. If you want to get your husband something great, I definitely would suggest the beard brush. And then again, if some of you are a little hairier than you want, you might want to get it too. And then our last one, at least for probably about an hour or so, and then we'll come back and pay another bill. Let's be loyal to Rumble, because Rumble's the one that's given us this platform. And of course, we're going to hit up the Rumble wallet. And with that, folks, they can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently, yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. And when the system fails, and it's going to, and when the institutions turn their back on their people, and they already have, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. And if you're like, oh, if I don't see no QR code, it's because you got to be watching on the Rumble platform. But that link will be down in the description if you're watching later or if you're watching the replay. So with that, folks, I did see a Rumble rant come in, and I did say I was going to be saving the Rumble rants for the end of the show, but I want to take an opportunity to put out a public apology. Flying Storm put a $10 Rumble rant, and I'll still read it at the end. And it says coffee talk with Sandra. And I was supposed to come on that game show today, and I had my hours mixed up between Pacific and East Coast. So I feel like a complete jerk. Sandra over there at Coffee Talk, you know, she's been a friend since the beginning. I remember meeting her at my very first Reawaken conference when I didn't even have a tablecloth. It was literally a soundboard, 2 microphones, and my computer. And she was one of the people that was very kind and offered some advice. And so, Sandra, I am sorry. This week was a mess for me. And I beg for your forgiveness. And I hope that you will give me an invite to another show to be a part of that, because it looked like a lot of fun. And if one of you guys wants to throw the link to that show in the chat, so people can go see tonight's. And tonight's had such a great lineup, especially because I really wanted to be on with a few of the people that were on there. So, Sandra, if you're seeing this, I'm sorry. So with that, folks, let's get into the content. Let me set myself up, and it's going to be a heck of a show. It's going to be a heck of a show tonight. As a matter of fact, the next few weeks are going to be wild. I had a phone call today while I was at the gym trying to get my swell on and be healthy. And I can't talk about the information. And it's not information that would have impacted us as we're going into. It was just stuff to help me with my assessments and analysis of things. But one takeaway I have is I notice that so many of you that aren't getting shaken up by the deep state, because I see you guys on all these different platforms. You guys are dialed in. You're not panicking. I see you guys, like, you guys are calling out the psyops fast. And I just want to say, like, one, it makes me feel good because I feel like I have a part in that. And two, it gives me a lot of confidence in the direction that Patriot America is heading. They can't beat us. And they know that. And they're trying their last scenarios to impact it. You see it full-fledged no matter what social media platform you are, and they are failing. And with that, I will also be very honest. It's always been my assessment that the deep state's never going to throw their hands up and be like, you got me, game over. They're going to fight hard towards the end. But the fact that, you know, there's a difference between chaos and controlled demolition. And I think we are seeing the good guys doing controlled demolition to get the deep state, the globalists, this evil entity, to act early, to act out of sequence. And I think that is one of the reasons that their psyops aren't working on us. So with that, we'll definitely be talking about it in the show. We started off with the trailer, right? And shout out to Grums, says, this is better than the Lego movie, Iran Pilot Rescue. And I wanted to show that because we're seeing memes, we're seeing anime. We're going to get that here in just a second. I mean, the culture of this information war that's upon us, especially now that artificial intelligence is literally in the hands of all of us with our phones. It has become something that is rapid. It has become something that it's instantly effective. And you don't have to be a 10-year computer engineer to weaponize these things. If you go and you just use a couple, get familiar with these things at a very basic level, you guys can be memeing champions and video champions, whether it's Grok or Neuro or some of these other ones. And I just want to say, you know, coming from the garden, hearing some people say, I'm afraid of, you know, the technology and it's going to pass me up. Just start. Just say, all right, I'm going to try one and start. And before you know it, you will have advanced your tool set as a digital soldier. So what was I talking about with anime? So one of the things that's happened over the last 2 weeks is Elon went and said, hey, there are a lot of people that are, and let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys, because I get yelled at in the chat and they're just like, oh, can you make it bigger? I'm like, story of my life. And I apologize. It's not that late yet. And he said, hey, he heard the complaints. Well, here's what I'll say. He publicly came out and said that he's heard the complaints of these bot accounts from Africa and other regions. And he says, I'm gonna eliminate that. I'm gonna eliminate the financial incentive and as well as the algorithm that's pushing these things that have been weaponized. And on the flip end of that, he says, you know, I'm gonna introduce the culture. I'm gonna have the algorithm push the culture of Japan onto Americans and vice versa, Americans onto Japan. And at first everybody's kind of like, that's kind of be weird, right? And I'll give you my thoughts on why he really did it. But just to entertain this conversation, all of a sudden Americans and the Japanese, because he made it to where their post automatically translated into English for us and our post automatically translated into Japanese for them. So we were all reading each other's content in real time. And we started seeing, hey, there's a lot of them where they're talking about muscle cars. They're talking about barbecue. They're talking about sports. And a lot of the Japanese people were realizing the conversations on our end, and we're like, we all have a lot in common. And you saw this immediate internet bromance between America X and Japan X, and everybody forgot, you know, about the Nigerian salesman accounts that were all over social media and weaponizing this stuff. And it flourished. It absolutely flourished, and it was awesome. And so let's get into a couple of these, and then I'll tell you why. So obviously, here's one where you say U.S. enjoying Japanese Twitter. I thought that was pretty cool right there. You have this one from Cloud 187, says Japan is on a different level. Let me see. Do I have this video for you to share? I don't think I did. But nonetheless, you still see it. You know, their ability to create these videos for us. Let me zoom in a little bit out so you guys can see a little bit more of the stuff there. But it shows. They're showing the assassination. They're showing the funnies that we do with JD. There's Trump doing the thing where they said he's making fun of retards. Like the fact that they realize the stuff that we trash on when we're over here. It accelerated this relationship. And one of the good things that I think that came out of this was we realized that American MAGA or American patriotism is shared in a very similar way in other countries, just as much as it is here. And that was pretty cool. Japan was a prime example of that. And I think I got one more to share with you guys here. Yeah, so Captain SO puts this one out, and then I'll give you my thoughts after this one. He goes, to my American friends, I want to speak from the heart because this moment truly moved me as a Japanese citizen. When President Trump made that Pearl Harbor joke, it wasn't just humor to us. It felt like a weight I'd carried my whole life was suddenly lifted. My chest tightened, and honestly, tears came close. For 80 long years, we Japanese have lived under a heavy shadow. The constant expectation to apologize, to reflect, to stay in guilt mode. Even though we're the closest of allies, that old wound never fully healed. We felt bound by the past, by the Constitution America helped write for us, always a little smaller, always needing to prove we were sorry enough. But in that single joke, Trump did something powerful. He turned a painful history into a shared laugh between equals. It was like he was saying, hey, it was a long time ago. We're good. Let's move forward as brothers. No more endless atonement, no more living in the shadow of being the former enemy. The curse broke. Japan feels free to stand tall again. Right now, cherry blossoms are blooming beautiful across all Japan. The spring and sakura feels like a perfect symbol, a fresh beginning, not two nations stuck in old roles, but true equals, proud brothers, shoulder to shoulder, ready to build the future together. To the American people, we don't want to be subordinates forever. We want to be your real partners, strong, proud, and loyal. The kind of allies who ride or die together. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, America. The strongest alliance in the world is rising again as equals, as brothers, forever. Hashtag Phoenix Rising. Now, for those of you that might be missing, what is he talking about that joke? So when the president had I believe they're called the prime minister, or it might be the president, but when she arrived to the White House, somebody can correct me in the chat. What's the proper title? And I believe it's prime minister, but I could be wrong. But when he had her over from Japan, and she came out of the vehicle and she went to meet Trump, she embraced him. You know, it wasn't just it. In my opinion, and for those of you that saw it, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. It went beyond a professional hug. It was a sincere embrace. Like that was real emotions. It wasn't a photo op. It was like, I love you, Mr. President. And that was to me, a representation of this post. I mean, that hug she gave the president is, to me, these words confined in one action. And I thought that was awesome. So the joke that Trump said is, one of the reporters said, hey, why didn't you give Japan a heads up with the military operation that you did in Iran? And Trump says, like you guys gave us a heads up in Pearl Harbor? Everybody was there. You heard some laughter, but it felt like there was reserved. Like people were like, can we laugh at that? And so this is, you know, what this gentleman from Japan is addressing that joke, to say, yeah, we can not make light of the lives that were lost. Absolutely not, on either end. Not with Pearl Harbor, not with Hiroshima or Nagasaki, you know, but that learning experience from it can now be utilized to make these nations prosper in a relationship, instead of, you know, what this man described. And I know that's a long take for this part, where we usually kind of just fly through the intro part of this catching up on general news, but it's important. And the reason it's important for two things. One, now I'm going to explain why I think Elon did this at the time that he did. We have seen these information operations that have been unfolding on social media. And we have seen that these operations have been amplified by bot accounts and third-party operations in other countries and continents like Africa. And a lot of people are like, fix it, fix it, fix it. The issue is, you fix it too soon, then the bad guys figure out how to remedy it, and then they remedy it and they do their counter moves in time to affect what's really important, which is coming around the corner, which is midterms. So, and you guys have, I've been saying this, whether it's the virtual town halls of Twitter X, or whether it's me being a guest in other shows or this show in of itself, I've always said timing is everything. It's an operation. And Elon doing that at this strategic time tells me that he's a lot more read in on what's going on than probably most people suspect, which tells me that there's a definitive alliance between Elon and Trump that far surpasses just friendship, that there is a professional, strategic, and tactical relationship that exists between Elon and Trump. And that's a good thing. The other part that I think is really important with that is the conversations of who are our allies and who really are our adversaries. And that's important. And right now, there are countries we suspect that maybe they're not an ally. And there's countries that we suspect that maybe they're not adversaries. And, I think we all kind of understand. I'm not going to focus too much on which ones are and which ones aren't. I'm going to let this process play out, and I will talk about it as I see moving forward. But you get the point I'm trying to say is they're creating critical thinking in Americans again, obviously beyond just America, but for us and in this fight for sovereignty here, they're bringing back critical thinking. So now let's fly through the rest of these so we can get into themes tonight. Bethany O'Leary says, wow, President Trump just dropped that his team is going to investigate and possibly bring criminal charges against Planned Parenthood for harvesting and selling baby organs. This is massive. Would you support them going after it? And I think I do have this clip. So let me play the first part of it for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I just want to follow up on that. If Planned Parenthood is defunded, would you look into the harvesting of baby organs that they've done throughout the years and maybe go after some criminal prosecution on that?
Well, I think you're talking about a subject that is a heated subject, and we'll look into it. We're going to look into everything, but that's certainly a subject that's been debated for a long time, and we will look into it, yeah.
Mr. President, some senators have expressed hope that the White House will support a rescission package to codify some of the Doge cuts into law. Where does the White House stand on that? And are you making progress?
Which package?
A rescission package to codify some of the Doge cuts into law.
You know what? It would be great. I think we're going to do that. I think they're going to do it. I think we're also going to be codifying a lot of the executive orders that we've done, which have been very popular. And we're
So, two things. A, we're going to be looking into the Planned Parenthood. Now, why is that important? You had Vice President Vance that came out last week and stated that there were certain conspiracies out there, one that has to do with a gate and a food that the Ninja Turtles like to eat. I'm trying to make sure that this survives over there on YouTube for you YouTube audience. And he brought up another conspiracy that has a portion of that word being frazzle. You had the vice president acknowledge those things. And if you listen to the way this question was presented, it was talking about the organ harvesting that Planned Parenthood is doing. And those are big deals. And I think these conversations, because you got to remember, folks, you guys are the advanced Anons. You guys are the advanced digital soldiers. You guys are you guys are the 1% of the 1% when it comes to people who are informed. The vast majority of the population is nowhere near the vicinity of where you guys are. And so these conversations are the ones that are going to slowly bring these people in. Before this show, given the conversation that I had at the gym, to reference that again, I was like, I feel like watching the original Matrix. And when I was watching the part one, the original Matrix, there's a part where, he comes to and they pull him out of the, that farm, that cocoon thing that they had him in. And, Morpheus tells Neo, that there's a certain age, he goes, where we don't normally bring people out of it because it's too dangerous. They reject it. The Matrix has too much of a hold on them. And when I think about how does Trump do this information maneuver warfare, along with his generals, his white hats, think about that group of people. Is this really about saving American America and getting its sovereignty? Is it really about saving the children? And is it really about fighting for humanity? And if it is, folks, then I would plead with you to hit the reset button on your fatigue. Hit the reset button on your frustration. Hit the reset button on being exhausted with waiting. Because it's more important than just us. It's more important than just our community. You guys are the field generals, the sergeants, the lieutenants, the commanders. And if we start saying, and I'm guilty of it, I think most of us are, of saying, the hell with it, we can't wake up everybody, and we can't. That's not a misleading statement. We can't, but we can wake up one more. And aside from the anti-vote operation we're going to get into tonight, if there was one other message I wanted to take away from is find the motivation you had when you first took your red pill. And you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Remember when you pulled out the thing like Neo did? And this part overwhelms me with emotions because I do remember. And I remember being on social media on Twitter when these Twitter spaces had first started. And I remember one of the things that I would witness is seeing people come in when they had just been red pilled. They just saw the fall of the cabal, or they just saw something with Epstein or something. And they come into these virtual town halls and they request a microphone and you can hear the anxiety in their chest. It's like the calendar's ticking away and their mindset is, we're out of time. And they're just, I got to talk about this. I got to tell you guys about, adrenal something. And I'm getting good. I'm getting good, YouTube. I'm getting good. We got to talk about this and with the elections. And there's and I remember we were witnessing these newly red pilled people coming into the community. And none of us said, hey, you're speaking to the choir. None of us said, hey, we know what you're talking about. Everybody just listened. And they let this person get off their chest all the stuff that they had just dug into and all the rabbit holes that they just went into. They had just had their Neo moment of the Matrix. And then once they got it out, then we said, hey, relax. You're amongst your people. And there's a lot. And we got to slow you down because you're going to exhaust yourself. And we don't know when this fight's going to end. And we got more people that we got to wake up. We were a lot more patient back then, folks. I'm talking about, 2021-ish, early 2022. We were a lot more patient than we are right now. And one of the reasons I think we've lost our patience is some of you have been awake for decades. My heart goes out to you. But for those of us that have been awake sometime within the last 10 years, this frustration is also a design by the bad guys. They want to frustrate us so that we just want to get to whatever the end of the story looks like. So we forget about the other humans, about the other people. And we're just like, let's go. Why? Because those people that have yet to be awakened, those are numbers that the deep state fears. So here's my challenge for you tonight. And I'm going to try to do a better job with this myself as well. The boards tell us that the end isn't for everybody. And there's multiple interpretations of that. And I don't think it's isolated to just any one interpretation. I agree that the end isn't for everyone. But let's hit the reset button on however we're feeling. And from now to whenever this truly does end, let's get as many people on board with us as we can. Get motivated again. Remember your empathy for those that are just waking up. And don't look at yourself as superior. Look at yourself as someone that's there to put your arm around them and be like, hey, let me guide you through this because I know what it's like. That's how we win. So I know that's a lot. Again, we're catching up. We're almost 3 weeks without Just Alpha. So we got a lot to get into. Wall Street Ape says, this is horrifying. We're going to get into some of just like there's an anti-voting operation that's out there. Part of this other operation out there is there's no fear of, Islamic extremism in our country. Islamophobia is what that is. The only real threat to America is just the Jews, right? That's it. That's an operation too, folks. Guess what? There's absolutely an Islamic extremist threat that exists in this country. And right here it says, news cameras catch a private Muslim security force in Texas, folks, right? Quote, you have these grants that were for minority communities, and it was set up to be that before we had any of this invasion of all these people from all over the planet that have come to this country, and now they're using that as a workaround to basically install these massive centers that have Sharia law and their own Sharia police force. And so I have about 2 minutes of this that I want to play for you guys. So take a listen.
Our UK-based news outlet went to one of the massive Islamic centers being built in Texas to do some reporting. And I got to tell you, this is scary stuff.
Police?
I'm a security officer.
Private security?
Yes, sir.
Islamic security for the center?
It's a private property. Sir, your camera's still on.
Yeah, we're going. The Islamic epicenter of America. That's how campaigners in Dallas, Texas are describing a proposed new 400-acre Muslim development that'll be 4 times bigger than Disneyland. Now, politicians are taking steps to stop the development, which they say would be the start of Sharia law in the United States.
Well, listen, imposing Sharia law clearly violates the Texas Constitution that provides freedom of religion. What Epic City did, for example, they tried to create a community limited only to Sharia law and to Islamics and those who believe in Islam and Muslims from being able to live in the community.
Okay, so we're on our way to the East Plano Islamic Center, also known as Epic. It's a massive mosque here in the suburbs of Dallas. And what they're planning to do just down the road, maybe sort of 40 odd miles away, on the outskirts of Dallas, is create this huge so-called Islamic megacity. It's basically a 400-acre housing development. They want to build multiple schools, a brand new mosque, elderly living centers, and the likes of Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, has said, we do not want Sharia law in the United States. And here it is now. This is the El Plano Islamic Center Mosque, where these plans are being drawn up. Let's see if we can speak to anyone and see what they have to say about the controversy surrounding their plans to a drone. There's a drone flying in the air there, look. Wow. That's pretty secure. Private patrols there, Pioneer Investigation Services. My name's Ben Leo from GB News in the UK, from London. We're just here to see if we can speak to anybody about the development at Josephine, just for a news story.
You have appointment or anything with the...
No, we sent an email and tried to call, but we didn't have any luck.
Can you just bark? I will...
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
This is huge, folks. Huge. They want this. When you continue to go on, and it's a long clip. I think it was just short of 10 minutes. But when you go and read the articles on this, they want this to be the Islamic epicenter in America. Where I come from, we call that a forward observation base. We call that a headquarters. We call that command. Conquer, right? They want that facility, that mosque, to go up because that shows every other Islamic extremist out there. It shows Muslims around the world, good ones and bad ones. It's still going to show both of them. I don't care what people say. Well, there's good Muslims. There are. But it still plants a seed of a thought in there that this huge mosque just got placed in Texas of the United States of America. That's a morale influencer for people that are extremists. The hardline answer to this is absolutely not. This thing is huge. Like you said, they got banking institutions there. They have schools there. This is a slow takeover just until they get enough people into the local government that it doesn't have to be slow anymore. And we see that happening in places like Dearborn, Michigan. So when you hear people, and I don't care if it's my friends, I don't care if it's my associates, when you hear people that say, oh, that's propaganda, oh, that's people that are trying to distract from something, say, no, it's not. It's a legitimate threat. And ask them, do you know how many mosques are in the state of Texas? How about California? How about New York? Because just between those 3 states, you got over 1,000 or close to it. And a lot of you probably didn't know that. That's a hell of a problem. And so, yes, do we got to do with other foreign governments infiltrating our government? Absolutely. Do we got to address AIPAC? I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. Absolutely. And just like the CCP and everybody else, do not allow people. And if you hear, even if they're not talking to you, if you're in the presence of this, push back against it and say, no, you're wrong. This is an issue. So let's keep going. Carmen Patriot, keep her health in your prayers, folks. She's a solid patriot out there. Leaked Fauci audio. Anthony Fauci should be arrested and jailed. Oh, maybe he already is. This low-life non-human will have judgment day very soon. I hear it's hot as hell where you're going, Fauci. Enjoy. You have to listen to this. This is going to be hard to listen to, folks, especially if you're someone that endured an injury or lost somebody or lost a career. This is going to be a very hard 60 seconds to listen to, but we got to hear it.
Once people feel empowered and protected legally, you are going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated. Yeah. Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us, you get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated.
That's exactly what you meant when you said making it hard for people to live without getting a vaccination. You affected people's ability to work, travel, be educated, to actually flourish in American society, to self-determine, as we're all given God-given rights. Shame on you. You inspired and created fear through mass mandates, school closures, vaccine mandates that have destroyed the American people's trust in our public health institutions.
So, sorry, I'm responding to something that happens while we're doing a live show. It's important. When you hear people say people are not being held accountable, that these people are going to walk scot-free, do I believe that there are people that are delivering that information and they know justice is coming? I do. There needs to be a controlled element of pressure that exists. And then I think that there are people out there strategically doing it, and they're doing it in a way that they're controlling the temperature because they're part of a formal operation. Not all psyops are rather bad guys. But there are also people that are trying to exploit this to destroy morale. You guys know my position on morale. Morale is a weapon, and they want to create despair. And so just understand, again, timing is everything. And so when you start to get this audio from Fauci leaked, you see that big tech platforms are starting to balance out the algorithm. We've definitely noticed it on YouTube. We're starting to be able to talk about some stuff, not all stuff, but some stuff. And different people are strategically testing it. But all this timing, you got the SAVE Act. You got Congressman Burchett out there pulling out some information that's very important. You have Anna Paulina Luna out there that's putting out some information. If you notice, all this information's all coming at once. And for those of you that were on combat teams or maybe work law enforcement, there's a thing we know as the fatal funnel. Look what just happened out here in California with that, dirtbag Eric Swalwell, right? Former congressman that was sleeping with a Chinese spy, and all of a sudden the information surfaces about his actions. We'll be talking about that here in just a few moments. All this is happening at one time. And why? Because it's a choke point. What President Trump and the White Hats and portions of his administration are doing right now is The same thing that has been weaponized against you and me, which is the overwhelming amount of information, so that there's just not it doesn't matter how much mainstream media that the deep state controls. It doesn't matter how many operators they have deployed on social media, in mainstream media, in alt media, in Substacks. Trump and them are controlling the flow of information. And this, the same way it was overwhelming for us for 4 years under Biden, and some would argue longer, but we all definitely experienced it then. This is now boomeranging against the deep state, and it's forcing them into a choke point where they're going to have to start choosing which battles they're going to deploy their resources, which means not all of these narratives they're going to be able to handle, and people are going to learn the truth. Now, the interesting thing about this strategy that Trump and the White Hats are doing is that it doesn't matter which battles the deep state decides to fight. They're all linked. What do you mean by that, Alpha? We're going to get into the Rico later with Tulsi, so I'll tease on it now. But even if they try to, distort the narrative of truth, and I'm talking about the deep state, later on when the Rico cases, that's cases with an S, come out, and people start hearing the names, they're going to be like, well, that's the same person that was in the Russia that was also in the Act Blue or the Win Red. Hold on. That case over there in Arizona, Maricopa County, people working with the cartels, well, that's the same person that was working over here regarding this. So it doesn't matter, because everything's going to get interlocked together, because it's a thing known as the criminal enterprise. So let's just keep going. I just want to make sure you guys have the information. This is the one with the Eric Swalwell that we're just talking about. Eric Doherty puts out, he goes, breaking Rep. Anna Paulina Luna reveals that the person who recorded Eric Swalwell's infamous video is potentially an underage female. Holy crap, major legal troubles incoming for Swalwell. Potentially the individual that recorded that video in that hotel room was a female, and she was underage, end of quote. And another quote, we did have the votes to expel him. And another quote, he has serious criminal problems on his hands. I do think he might end up in jail. And take a listen to this for yourself.
Be filed, and we did have the votes to expel him from Congress. So what I will say is that many people on the Hill knew about this. Many reporters have come forward, even in talking to me, saying that they had heard stories about this. But I do think that he has serious criminal problems on his hand, and I do think that he might end up in jail, Jesse. And if I could just share with you for a moment, not only did I receive forensic reporting showing that, that infamous video of him in the hotel room was indeed him. It was not AI generated. But I'm also being told that, more stuff is going to be dropping in the next 24 hours. And then also potentially the individual that recorded that video in that hotel room, Jesse, was a female, and she was underage.
Oh, just so the audience is aware, there's a video that's circulating. Fox hasn't confirmed it yet. It appears to show Swalwell on a bed, maybe another guy making out with a girl. That's it. That's all we know. But if what you're saying is true, and we don't know, but if that's true, that is very, very, very bad news.
Give me 1 second, folks. Got to request something real quick. So again, timing is everything. This dude is cooked. Now, what I will say, and this is pure speculation, I think one of the reasons they're going after Swalwell publicly first is because they know this guy is weak. They already know. I think there's more to the story, and I'll leave this to CanCon. But I think there's more to the story regarding Fang Fang. The CIA wanted her. She didn't want to betray her country. There's a lot there, and I think we will learn that. But I think they did learn that Eric Swalwell probably has a dirt on a lot of people. And I think Swalwell is the first domino to collapse that's going to take down the deep state in California. Because you got to remember, strategic strongholds for the deep state is California and New York. And I think that there is a counter infiltration in New York that's unfolding. And I think what we're seeing here in California is they're going to use one of the Democrats to snitch. That way they didn't say, hey, it came from the Republicans. This is going to be information coming from Swalwell in order for him to buy a lighter sentence or maybe something, we'll see. I'm not going to speculate because we still don't know all the allegations. But he's definitely going to try to work a deal. And I think they're going to use this to collapse the Pelosi mafia that's been controlling California for a very long time. Let's get going. Eric Dart again. It's official. Rep. Eric Swalwell is resigning from Congress. He got the call. House Democrat leadership likely did not want to make their cowardly members go on the record to expel him, and an in-party political takedown took a matter of just a few days long ago. And why is this one important? Here, well, let me just play this so you can hear it, and then I'll give you some thoughts.
Breaking news because the 5 gets results, maybe. Eric Swalwell is resigning from Congress. He said this in a statement. I am deeply sorry to my family, staff, and constituents for mistakes in judgment I've made in my past. I will fight the serious false allegation made against me. However, I must take responsibility and ownership for the mistakes I did make. I am aware of efforts to bring an immediate expulsion vote against me and other members. Expelling anyone in Congress without due process within days of an allegation being made is wrong, but it's also wrong for my constituents to have me distracted from my duties. Therefore, I plan to resign my seat in Congress. I will work with my staff in the coming days to ensure they are able, in my absence, to serve the needs of the good people of the 14th Congressional District. So Max Gordon, he's out in California. He's got the latest for us. I had you on Newsroom this morning. This is quite a turn of events.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this isn't necessarily unexpected, but it is definitely a shock to the political world. You know, he was a leading candidate for California governor just a couple of days ago, but then this bombshell report came out in the San Francisco Chronicle with allegations that he sexually assaulted a woman while he was, or she was one of his staffers. Then CNN came out with a separate report interviewing 3 additional women, saying that there was some sexual impropriety that had gone on.
So this guy's done, folks. He is cooked. He's either going to snitch or he's going to go away for a very, very long time. And then next on deck, we got Nick Sorter reporting, breaking: President Trump will be discussing withdrawing the U.S. from NATO this afternoon with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. They were tested and they failed. Trump said, it's time. NATO needs us. We don't need them. And that's pretty self-explanatory there. But let's take a listen.
And on NATO, can you tell me, is the United States still considering withdrawing from NATO? Is that still a possibility?
It's something the president has discussed, and I think it's something the president will be discussing in a couple of hours with Secretary General Rutte, and perhaps you'll hear directly from the president following that meeting later this afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
At the very end, saying that the president is going to discuss with Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, the possibility of the United States withdrawing from NATO. I would imagine, Sandra, that's probably going to be highly unlikely, but the president not happy. Caroline Levitt saying, quoting the president, they were tested and they failed. So it's going to be quite a meeting this afternoon.
Yeah. So, again, timing. The entire structure, and without going into these shows, because I always want to explain everything, but the timing of everything, again, if you go all the way back to the beginning of the second administration, 2.0, some would argue third, Trump went after the USAID, he went after NED, he went after the NGOs, he removed the funding foundation. After that, he went after the muscle, he went after the cartels, he went after the people that the globalists are using. And now what is he doing? He's taking out the top dog organizations. He's attacking the Fed, he's attacking NATO. He took us out of the World Health Organization. You have the WEF, like all these things, all these apparatuses are getting exposed and we're being removed from them. This is all strategy. So when people sit there, folks, it blows my mind. I know why people are saying it. You know, people are trying to push agendas. What blows my mind is the people that believe it. I'm like, you see, in the last, what are we at now, 16 months of this administration, all this stuff that I've already talked about, and there's so many more things. How can anybody fathom that nothing's happening right now? There's a full-blown war against the globalist deep state apparatus right now in real time. And we knew that this was coming because you all go all the way back to, 2/3 of the way into last year. And you had DNI Gabbard come out and said, hey, we now have a RICO case on the Russia hoax that we're doing. That right there should have let everybody know, it's the stuff's going to hit the fan. But again, let's keep going because we got more. John Strand puts, holy smokes, John Solomon, reports bombshell memos from the FBI revealed by FBI Director Cash. They document how J6 was planned, entrapment set up exactly as I described in Patriot Plea. They destroyed our lives for a lie. This one hits home personally, but nonetheless, it's important.
Yeah, they did. They had a tabletop exercise that they ran in Boston in August of 2020, 5 months before January 6th occurred. The memos, which Kash Patel just turned over to Congress, he just found them recently, turned them over to Congress at the request of Chairman Barry Loudermilk, who's in charge of the J6 investigation now in the House, show that the FBI knew there was a strong possibility of a hanging election or a contested election, that both sides appeared to be agitated and likely could likely carry out that agitation to the point of violence. And they even devised very specific strategies. And one of them is to embed informants inside the groups where the most likely political violence or political agitation might occur. That is something that the FBI did. We had 24 informants on the ground on the morning of January 6th. The second thing they recommended was mass prosecutions, even for the most minor of crimes. Exactly what the FBI did after January 6th. Now, there are two big things about that strategy. It's pretty clear the strategy was hatched months before, and that's what they carried out. It's not the strategy they used for the political violence that BLM and the far left conducted all throughout the summer and fall of 2020. So a very clear double standard. The second thing is they did embed informants in a lot of groups, including left and right groups, Antifa and right-wing groups, and they got lots of intelligence suggesting a bad episode would occur. We now know from Chairman Barry Loudermilk that while those warnings were very strong from the informants, the preparations and the warnings from the FBI to their brethren in the Capitol in Washington, D.C. did not exist. They didn't pass on the warnings from the informants. So two failed examples of the Chris Wray era of the FBI. Knowing something was going to happen, implementing a strategy that hurt conservatives but not liberals, and not warning the people who could actually prevent the violence from occurring. That is the legacy of the Chris Wray FBI. It's what we now have out in open. These documents are now out there for everybody to see. Pretty stunning, though maybe not so stunning given what we've learned about the FBI.
Now, a lot of you are probably saying, of course, we know this. This is this confirmation of what we already knew. And I agree with you. The thing I don't think people are probably recognizing here that I think is important is this is also validating that John Solomon had accurate information that he received quite some time ago. And it is also showing that his controlled delivery of, hey, I'm going to be releasing it pretty soon. I'm just waiting for some things, that all those things are, I would say, somewhat controlled. And the reason that's important is because he's made some other very strong assertions of what's coming down the pipeline. And so if John Solomon's showing a record of consistency and being fairly accurate with these stories, then we could, make a educated assumption that these other ones coming down the pipeline, it's reasonable to think that those are going to be pretty accurate as well. But of course, I agree with you guys, all J6ers and J6 adjacent, because some people just get so mad. You weren't at the Capitol, Alpha. Why don't you tell the people the truth? I'm like, have you not read my story? That's like the cornerstone of my story, that I got persecuted and I wasn't there. But again, trolls will be trolls. But let's keep going. I want to get into the themes of tonight. Gunther puts out, Rhino Senator Tom Tillis just went full clown mode. This one is going to piss you guys off. Listen to what he says, especially because this ties into J6.
Two pieces. One is the investigation of Jerome Powell. There will not be another Fed chair confirmed until that's disposed of, or until, for the first time since the allegations were made public, they could actually prove there's even a scintilla of criminal activity. We have 7 Republican members of the Banking Committee saying there wasn't. Now, separate matter, for me, the threshold for somebody following Pam Bondi ends the moment I hear they said one thing that excused the events of January the 6th. I've been very clear on that. So I hope whoever they have in mind to follow General Bondi was very clear-eyed on my position on January the 6th. That's why I didn't support 2 other nominees who were coming through Judiciary Committee, and I won't support any nominee who thought that any element of January 6th was excused.
Then this guy, knowing the information we have, especially with John Solomon's reporting, especially with what Director Cash has already confirmed and even before that hinted at. And all the stories coming forward, people coming, there's some more stories that are coming out here. We'll be talking about those next week for sure. There was a lot of narratives and testimony that was used by people that it's starting to seem like they were coerced into making these statements, and these statements were the foundation of a lot of these cases. And these J6ers are coming forward. Now, what level of forgiveness do we have for these people? That's going to depend a lot on the stories they share on what that coercion looked like. But nonetheless, you have this guy who has access to way more information than we do, and that's his command. These are the clowns. This is why you have a government that does not want to pass the SAVE Act. And Burchett put out a comment earlier today, and we'll be talking about it on Monday. But if you don't want to wait, you can go check out Burchett's comment on his beliefs on what's going on with the SAVE Act. And I was like, that's a very interesting take that he put out there. The other thing I want to do, I said I give shout outs to the gifted subscriptions and the new members. So shout out to Gigi1332 over there on YouTube that just became a member. Thank you for joining the family. Much appreciated. But let's keep going on to the next one now. So Etan Fishberger, I hope I said that correctly. This is important, folks. Former CIA officer, we'll call him John K., pled guilty to repeatedly and unlawfully leaking the identities and classified operational roles of covert CIA officers to journalists. The leaked identities reached the defense teams of terrorist detainees at Guantanamo Bay, who used them to secretly photograph a covert CIA officer and show those photographs to high-value terrorist detainees. These emails later revealed he had disclosed information on dozens of CIA officers, far beyond what he was formally charged with. He was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison. Following his relief, Kay worked for a Radio Sputnik and contributed to RT, both of which are part of the Russian state media apparatus. None of this matters tomorrow in the fall, of course, because it would interfere with his agenda of platforming anti-Israel and anti-American propaganda. Now, but Alpha, you talk about some of the stuff that comes out from RT. Listen, RT puts out some good stuff in there. But again, folks, remember, just because something's good doesn't mean you don't go check it. So whether it comes from RT or even our own government, you got to go vet the information. There are all different narratives out there. But again, here it is, United States Attorney's Office from the Eastern District of Virginia, former CIA officer sentenced to 30 months. So what's, aside from this crime that he's getting caught, why is this significant? Because this, again, confirms one of the things that I've been saying long before anyone, if not even first, I would argue, that there are leak operations in play with this administration at the intelligence level, at the military level, the FBI level, the DOJ, the administration, and I would say even within Trump's own circle, because we know that there are people, I say, we speculate that there is a team of people that is working with Trump outside the traditional government. People are like, people are going to get mad. That's outside the confines of the Constitution. Again, I would remind you something that General Flynn has said and that I agree with is we're also in unrestricted warfare. And if you think you're going to get to American sovereignty, and this is going to be a very controversial statement, I know people will clip it and use it against me. I don't give a shit. If you think that you're going to beat the most powerful deep state, globalist, evil, satanic regime that exists, and you think that you're going to accomplish that playing within the confines of the rules and laws, you're foolish. Will not happen. Surface level, it may appear that way, but I even think then you're going to see a lot of things that are called into question. Some people aren't built for war, and that's okay. Gordon G. Shang puts, China got hacked. And he quotes, unveiled China, if this is real, it could be one of the largest data breaches in China's history. A hacker group claims it extracted over 10 petabytes of data from a state-run supercomputing facility, widely believed by the experts to be the National Supercomputer Center in Tianjin, this center. So if we go to, of course, CNN would have something, and no, I'm not going to subscribe. This story, and this is from April 7th. So this is roughly, 11 days old. There's some parts highlighted that I wanted to read. A hacker has alleged stolen a hacker has allegedly stolen a massive trove of sensitive data, including highly classified defense documents and missile schematics from a state-run Chinese supercomputer, and what could potentially constitute the largest known heist of data from China. An account calling itself Flaming China posted a sample of the alleged dataset on an anonymous Telegram channel on February 6, claiming it contained research across various fields, including aerospace engineering, military research, bioinformatics, fusion simulation, and more. The alleged sample data appeared to include marked secret in Chinese, along with technical files, animated simulations, and renderings of defense equipment, including bombs and missiles. To put the scale in perspective, 1 petabyte equals 1,000 terabytes, and a high-spec laptop typically holds around 1 terabyte. I believe that was the last highlighted portion that I had. Yes. Now, why do I want to focus a little bit on this story? I'm not a hacker, so maybe this is definitely not my field of expertise, but from people that I know that are pretty technical, that I asked about this story, this is one of the things that I was told. Even your regular, but very good hackers don't have enough systems and computers to do this kind of operation. When we're talking, again, what was that big number they said? Find it. 10 whatever petabytes or whatever it was, right? Each one is 1,000 terabytes. But that would tell you that this is a very sophisticated group. And so then I said, whoa, when you say sophisticated, are we talking a group of like some college style kids that, are pretty good at this and all this? And they're like, if what you're getting at is this something that has to be assisted by an intelligence agency or another nation state actor, they said probably is something like that. Obviously, who would be off the books? But that got me to thinking, we know that China is fighting its own deep state as well. I speculate and believe that the sovereign alliance does exist and that Trump is working with Xi to go against the deep state apparatus that exists in China. And I think that we are seeing these good guys. Because remember, if the U.S. government comes out and says they acquired this information in certain ways, well, then there's certain laws that, they're not going to be able to use that in the public sphere, right? Or, I don't go further than that. But if a hacker group got this information and then it made its way into authorities because someone else took it, well, one, that would definitely be an example of unrestricted warfare, just saying. But two, this would also put our government and our intelligence apparatus in a position to where they could bring it publicly without creating tensions that some would argue would lead to war, because that would be considered an act of war. Again, the timing. This is all important. This story is only 11 days old right now. So let's keep going. Well, that wraps up the news portion of that. Now we're going to get into our theme. So before we do that, let me take care of one more bill, and then we'll do the other one at the end of the show. So let me bring this up on the screen. Actually, I'll go full screen with me, so this will make it a little easier for you guys to screenshot the barcode once it shows. And there it is right there, Neutronics. And I also want to bring this up on. So, well, let me address this first. So, one, people always say, do you use this stuff? Absolutely use it. Listen, you have IGF-1, right? Here's the platinum one. Here's a 300,000 one. I'll give you guys the good news with this one. I told you that there was one for women. Wasn't lying. IGF plus right here. The spray one, right? Now, this is healthy stuff. So if you're looking for something that tastes like cherry soda, it ain't going to be the case. It tastes healthy. It tastes like earth, all right? But here's what I'll tell you. Real-time benefits that people have put in their own personal testimonies, supports the immune system. It's going to burn fat. It's going to help with the muscle building. It's going to help with the joint health. It's going to help improve sleep. It's going to combat stress, the cortisol, and it's going to boost your energy. And fellas, definitely with the libido. It's going to do all those things. Let me tell you some of the things that I experienced the first time that I used it, and specifically with this one right here, was my vision. And I have good vision. I'm 20/20. You know, I'm lucky for that at the age of 46. I was like, I even told John Oliver when I was talking to him, because I did it while we are on a video conference call. I'm like, dude, everything looks crisp and more clear. Like, this stuff is rad. Well, now I've been using it for quite a few days now, and I've been using it going to the gym. Let me tell you guys something. All right. Do a little bragging here. I go hard in the gym. Like, I push hard. And a lot of times, because I push so hard, you know, you get those kind of those muscle spasms every now and then because you went really hard. You drink some water or whatever, you know, take some, you know, some other stuff to help with the recovery. And, you know, the soreness is still there, but that's a good thing, right? You're tearing down your muscles so your muscles could repair and get bigger and stronger. I was like, when I was done with my workout, because, you know, you expect that first hour to be like, this is going to be rough. And I almost felt like, I know I went hard, but I'm not feeling it. This stuff, folks, along with the testosterone one, because I take them together, my recovery has just been fantastic. About a week, I want to say I've been using it now. It was fantastic. So again, folks, this is legit. You're going to see that link again down you'll see it in the chat. You'll see it in the description. I just want to tell you guys, nothing changes if nothing changes. Give this stuff a shot. Again, I'll be honest with you. You're not going to, it ain't going to taste like a lollipop. You're going to put it under your tongue. You kind of hold it there for 10 seconds, swoosh it around, and then give it a swallow. But that's because they're not putting the sugars in it. They're not putting artificial flavors. This stuff is healthy, folks. So again, Neutronics, the IGF-1 plus platinum, try it. That link will be there. So now let's get us back into the show. Let me go a little screen. It would help if I didn't take myself off, but went like that. Rookie, come on, get it together. All right, folks. And I see we have a huge audience. I'm like, dang, is this what an audience would look like on Saturdays? Maybe I got to start doing a late live show on Saturdays. We got over 2,200 people watching on Rumble right now. We have over 1,200 people watching on YouTube right now. And we got about another 1,500 people watching on the X platforms. So again, shout out to all you guys that are joining us tonight. Much appreciated. If you haven't done so yet, smash the thumb, hit the heart, leave a comment. We're going to revisit this at the very end of the show. So if you're someone who lasts and goes the distance, this image is it's going to resurface later, and it'll be important why, and I think you'll like it. But the White House put this out on April 4th, so 14 days ago. God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America. That's 9:33 my time. So this would be 10, 11, 12:33 in the morning, East Coast time. And again, April 4th. And so if we go to 12:33 on the boards, it takes us to April 21st, which is just a few days away. And this is what the next 6 years is about. This question. And then again, it goes on to the post itself. This will lose black votes once Haiti revealed, lost now, awakening. They keep them enslaved. What did Hussein do for the black community versus POTUS? But again, the part that caught my attention is this is what the next 6 years is about, this question. So think about that again. Like, so at the end of the show, we're going to expand upon that. But if we go to the date, the April 4th one, POTUS will be up all night. Pray, watch the news tomorrow. Now remember, this is April 4th, 2018. Well, where are you going with this, Alpha? Well, what happened on that date this year? Well, this goes into the trailer video that we did with the Lego characters. 2026 United States F-15 Eagle rescue operation in Iran. I'll just read the beginning of this. I think all of you are kind of up to speed on this. In early April 2026, a combat search and rescue CSAR operation was conducted by the United States Armed Forces to recover 2 crew members of the F-15 Eagle Strike Eagle of the 494th Fighter Squadron that was shot down over Iran by Iranian forces on 3rd of April 2026 during the 2026 Iran war. The pilot was rescued by U.S. forces 7 hours after the crash. The operation involved hundreds of U.S. troops and dozens of aircraft. The weapons system officer escaped in the area of the Zangros Mountains while the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, U.S. combat search and rescue personnel, and local nomadic tribesmen worked to find him. The WSO was recovered by U.S. forces supported by the 155th Aircraft. A U.S. military official described it as one of the most challenging and complex missions in the history of U.S. special operations. Now, again, American flag at 12:33 a.m. East Coast. And then when we go to that post for that Delta for April 4th, we get Potus will be up all night. Now, why does this matter? Let me refresh your guys' memories. So you're like, I'm not tracking Alpha. You remember everybody coming out and making the statements that President Trump is in the hospital, is he's very ill. Some people went as far as to say, we think he's passed away. Like, it was crazy, the rumors that were coming out there. Now, again, the vast majority of you called them out and were like, Trump is not in the hospital. You know, we see the Marine sentries that are right outside of the, I believe it was the Oval Office from the pictures that we saw. President Trump's taking care of business. And that business was this operation. So again, in the absence of Trump coming out to say anything because he was in the Situation Room, right, with General Kane and Hegseth and others, Potus will be up all night. This nailed it, folks. Nailed it. And then watch the news tomorrow. And then when you were watching the news the next day, they came out and told us what happened. Again, you want to call that a coincidence? Well, fine. Have at it. I think the vast majority of us are just like, heck no. That is not a coincidence, especially when this continues to happen over and over. And what I will say, it does seem like a lot of these drops have a lot of very specific contexts as far as date deltas in this administration. So far, what we'll witness in 2025 and 2026. And if that continues, I have a theory we'll be talking about probably in a few months with that. So again, let's shift topics here. So this one, let's see. I have this for you here. Because one of these videos they want to load, okay? Because there is a YouTube video that I'm going to have to change the format so you guys can see it because it's very important. But that's going to be with Tulsi Gabbard. This one is with Trump, and I do have it. So I'm going to play it for you guys. It's about a minute. And this is going to set up. We're going to get into the next theme of the show, which is the anti-vote operation. All right? Now, I want to be very clear, folks. Do I believe that everybody out there saying don't vote or implying not to vote is a bad guy operative? No, I don't think that. I think a lot of those people are victims of the propaganda. However, the vast majority of the people out there that are stating or implying or pushing people not to vote absolutely are part of an operation designed to destroy this country. And I'm going to make that argument as we go through this next section. But before we do that, let's take a listen to something Trump said.
What exactly did you mean when you said that you should nationalize elections, and which 15 states are you talking about?
I want to see elections be honest, and if a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Because, you know, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway. But when you see some of these states about how horribly they run their elections, what a disgrace it is, I think the federal government, when you see crooked elections, and we had plenty of them, and by the way, we had them last time, but go to 2020 and look at the facts that are coming out. Rigged, crooked elections. If we have areas, take a look at Detroit, take a look at Pennsylvania, take a look at Philadelphia. You go take a look at Atlanta. Look at some of the places that horrible corruption on elections. And the federal government should not allow that. The federal government should get involved. These are agents of the federal government to count the votes. If they can't count the votes legally and honestly, then somebody else should take over.
The Constitution says it should be states that administer elections, Mr. President.
Yeah,
That's what the Constitution
you know what?
says.
They can administer the election, but they have to do it honestly.
So, where are we going with this, and what's the argument that I want to make? You know, there is the conversation that a lot of people, a lot of my friends especially, share that elections are fake and gay. And I used to say that as well. However, the fake part I have seen now weaponized into something I completely disagree with. Because if something is fake and it's not real, then why participate? There's a good argument to be made there. But our elections aren't fake. Our elections are stolen. And there's a significant difference there. What's something important is when you steal something because it has value. And when something is stolen, do we just sit back and be like, hey, they stole my car, or they stole my money, you know, they stole my painting. Oh, well, no. We say, let's report it, let's document it, let's, you know, get my stuff back because it has value. And that's the mindset that I want to make sure that you guys all at least entertained. I would hope some of you would subscribe to it. Is if you don't try, and first of all, do I believe that elections are rigged with fraud? Absolutely. Still got to vote. And I'm going to explain my argument why, and I'm going to use Trump to support this argument. If you don't vote, if you think that that is going to, and let's say you get 10 million people not to vote, which I think that would never happen. But let's just stipulate that 10 million showed up and didn't vote. Do you think that the deep state globalists are going to be, when everybody says, well, this is not what, they're still going to institute what they want? And we got a small sample of that during Biden's administration. No, they're going to say, hey, you didn't vote. That's why you guys lost. And what argument do you make against that? If you don't vote, what argument do you make when the deep state apparatus tells you this wasn't stolen? This is what the people voted for. You didn't vote. You have no argument there. You didn't show up to the fight. The only thing not voting secures is that there will not be any evidence or ability to audit or do an investigation into the stealing of the elections. You need evidence. And for people that will make the argument that, well, we've been voting in fake elections, let's just go as far back as 2020 or, 2016 and then 2020 and the midterms of 2022 and then into 2024. And they're still stolen. They're still stolen. Why are we doing it? Well, here's one very strong argument that I would make is look how much more people are awake. And why are they awake? Because they voted. When you go and you vote and your coworkers vote, your family votes, your community votes, your city, your county, and everybody knows how everybody's, the atmosphere, at least the surface level, how everybody feels about things geopolitically, and it doesn't unfold that way, people start to ask questions because it doesn't add up. And that gets people to be invested. Why do you think, just, by a show of comments, how many of you knew about elections and election law and precinct chairmen and the process of elections like you do today? How many of you had that mindset and that knowledge all the way back to in 2015, 2016? I didn't. I just said, hey, who's the guy that's going to keep more money in my paycheck and it's not going to sell us out? And I'm going to go vote for that person. But now we've realized, people are having the conversation of electoral votes. People are realizing that state legislators have the power. People are realizing how all this stuff works in the ballot process. Why? Because of the investment. When people are invested and their investment doesn't come to fruition and they lose out, and especially if it's stolen from them, it pisses people off and people want answers. And when those answers don't add up and people start to ask more questions and people start to realize, no, there's something smells afoot here, then people start to get involved. And you have that happening right now in real time. Why do we want to destroy that momentum? When we go out and tell people not to vote or imply not to vote, we are destroying the momentum of what the stolen elections have created. We have people signing up for precinct positions. We need to get people to run for these judge and magistrate positions, however, whatever that process looks like, because that's when we take this back. So again, I'm not going to go into a very long argument, but I just want to make a foundation argument there is you will never, ever take back your election system by quitting. by forfeiting. The only way you get it back is if you fight for it. And so what I'm telling you is we need to fight to secure elections and make them transparent. And in the same process, we've got to continue to vote. We have to recognize the battlefield that we're on, and we got to fight through it. So let me just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something, but let's keep going. So what's this anti-vote operation that I'm talking about? I'm going to use the Patriot Voice as a prime example, and there's so many others. He's responding here to Eagle Ed Martin, right? He's doing a phenomenal job. Keep that man and his family in your prayers. But Ed Martin puts out, this is on April 9th, so 9 days ago, politics is the art of what is possible. Give a damn about America, vote in midterms. I highly respect Ed, and I know a lot of you do. And even Ed's telling us, vote in midterms. And the Patriot Voice, as part of this anti-vote operation, in my opinion, comes out and says, Ed, I respect you, man, but I'm sorry, it is over. I will never vote another day in my life. So let's talk about this. And I got more lined up for you. I will never vote another day in my life. You think that's what the Democratic Party is saying? You think that's what the Antifa people are telling their people? Hey, don't vote because we keep losing. If you are telling conservatives, MAGA, America First, not to vote, what you're saying is, hey, forfeit to the people that did the gender ideology. Forfeit to the people that support pro-choice. Forfeit to the people that allowed between 12 and 30 million illegals to come into this country. Forfeit to the people that wanted to weaken our military. Forfeit to the people that gave Iran uranium. Forfeit to the people that sent billions of your tax dollars to every country that's out there. Forfeit to all those people, because that's how you win. That is the part of my French here. Cover your ears. If there's kids in the house, hit the mute button. That is the fucking stupidest thing I have ever heard in my life. That's like me as an amateur boxer in the boxing league saying, hey, coach, I don't think I can beat this guy in the ring. And my boxing coach tells me, well, just go in there and just keep your gloves down. What do you think is going to happen to me when I step in that ring? I'm going to get the shit kicked out of me. And some would argue, well, then you just don't show up to the ring. Well, then it's a guaranteed win because then I forfeited. You always fight, folks. When in the world have we accomplished anything by walking away? If you look at all the election reforms that we have now, whether it was, Civil War, whether it was equal rights, whether it was women, none of those things, none of those changes in laws, none of those amendments happened by people forfeiting. Those changes came by people fighting. Whether it was civil disobedience, whether it was a civil war, whatever the case is, people engaged. You never give up ground. But this is the mentality that these morons have. Let's keep going because this is not the only one. I think I have a couple more lined up for you. Donald Trump. He says, I'm asking all America First patriots in Tennessee, 7th Congressional District, to please, in all caps, get out and vote for a phenomenal candidate and MAGA warrior. And then he goes into the polls and all that other stuff, right? Swamp the vote. This is from December 2nd, 2025. Then we have Trump on April 7th. To the great patriots in Georgia's 14th Congressional District, get out and vote today. Then we go to March 27th of this year. The Republicans should terminate the filibuster and vote. And then we go to February 19th of this year. I only want Americans to vote in American elections. Now, why am I showing all these repeat messages of Trump telling Americans to vote and Trump even telling Congress to vote? Why? Why am I showing these? Because of this next post. Let me zoom in on this for you guys. Subversion. Actions designed to undermine the military, economic, psychological, or political strength or morale of the governing authority. Actions designed to undermine. So let's zoom out of this. If Trump is telling you to vote and vote and vote and vote, and you're pushing a message to tell Americans not to, or implying, or hinting, or suggesting, you by definition are subverting the president of the United States. And I don't care what your position is. By definition, you are subverting our president that the people voted for. Period. The general, every American deserves to know that their vote counts and that their vote is protected. We cannot keep running elections through a system that has been compromised for who knows how long. Voter ID, paper ballots, no machines, no mail-in ballots. These are all not radical ideas. They are common sense. Most of the world does it this way. The primaries are already underway. And if we do not have safe and secure elections in the place before the general elections, nothing changes. It's that simple. Let's take a listen to the general in his own voice.
Trump, I believe, is going to have to declare some type of national emergency. He's already signed executive orders to basically have a fair election, voter ID that's a legitimate, U.S. citizens, paper ballots, no mail-in ballots, get rid of these machines. And so President Trump needs to put that into effect, and he needs to do it very soon. Otherwise, we're going to go through the entire primary season with the same insane, corrupt system that we had, going really back probably a decade or more, but certainly back to the 2016, the 2020, the 2022, and the 2024 election.
Another man. Again, folks, just because we're in an uphill fight doesn't mean we forfeit. You can vote in the election knowing that these elections have issues in them. Because when you vote, why do we know that elections are stolen right now? Because we showed up in such massive numbers that in order for them to cheat, they had to do such outlandish adjustments that it created these anomalies that were easy for anybody to witness. And that affects the court of public opinion. And the most powerful weapon that exists in this information war, and I will argue with anybody on this, the most powerful weapon that exists for Trump, this administration, the white hats, us, the most powerful weapon that exists is the court of public opinion. The person who controls the court of public opinion can do anything they want, including things that go against our own U.S. Constitution. I'm not saying I like it, but I am stating the fact. If you own the court of public opinion, there is nothing that you cannot do. And that fight is happening right now. Sheriff Chad Bianco, whether you like him or you don't like him, or whether you support his run for governor or not, is irrelevant to the point that I want to make here. ABC 7 Eyewitness News reports, the California Supreme Court has ordered Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco to pause his probe into election fraud allegations and to preserve the more than 500,000 2025 election ballots he seized. California Supreme Court orders Bianco to pause probe into election fraud allegations. Again, if you think and you isolate your mind to only consider elections as fake, why would the deep state give a shit about ballots? It's fake. Why do they care? Well, let me tell you why they care. Because they're stolen. Because If it's fake, there's nothing to investigate. But if it's real and it's stolen, there's a lot. And this sheriff in California is going out there. Now, folks, they're not going in there to check the authenticity of these ballots. They're not going in there to see who voted for who. They're just doing a ballot count to see if it adds up with what was reported. And they don't want them doing that. And you know why? Because they had to do things like cheat, and that evidence exists. And that's why they're trying to pass laws in multiple states, or at least in some counties in multiple states, to make it against the law for people to do things like this. Again, evidence that elections are very real, but they're stolen. Gavin Newsom, we're challenging it. See you in court. I think I have this clip for you guys. I do.
Okay, so that's a big deal. Very proud of it. And I don't know how it can be challenged. You'll probably challenge it. You may find a rogue judge. You get a lot of rogue judges, very bad people, very bad judges. But that's the only way that can be changed, and hopefully we'll win on appeal if it is. But I don't see how anybody can challenge it. I don't see how they can challenge it. And remember, it's about voter integrity. We want to have honest voting in our country, because if you don't have honest voting, you can't have really a nation, if you want to know the truth. Howard, I'll give that to you.
So, and the next clip we're going to play now might even incorporate some of what he said there, but it's important. I want to cover that next one too. Again, Newsom, we're going to challenge it. Now, remember this. During this first 16 months, what has Trump drawn the normal, everyday Democrats to come out and say? And again, obviously the corrupt ones and the ones playing the role are saying it, but I'm talking about that. The normal, everyday Democrats have been coming out and saying that the elections are stolen. They're the election deniers this time. And so Gavin's coming out and says, no, we're not going to allow this, Sheriff. And again, this is happening in other states as well. We're not going to allow them to investigate these elections. And so the Democratic election deniers are going to be like, well, no, do that, so we can show that Trump and them stole these elections. Believe it or not, folks, there's so much noise that people are missing what's going on, that you have Democrats out there that don't believe these elections are not filled with fraud. That is a win. Again, that's the court of public opinion. So this one should be from Nick. It is. Just in, Howard Lucknick explains exactly how President Trump's new executive order will restrict mail-in voting. Each USPS envelope will have a unique barcode with tracking. DHS and SSA, Social Security Administration, create approved voter lists. USPS only sends ballot to that list. Now, this is brilliant. I'll let the video play, and then I'm going to tell you why I think this is just absolutely brilliant.
The states, right, run these elections. They will, if they want to use the U.S. mail, the U.S. Postal Service, they're going to get a code, a barcode from the U.S. Postal Service, and they're going to put that on the envelope, and we will have one envelope per vote. None of this time where we have no idea, there's no observers to mail, there's no envelopes, there's no certainty. That's all going to go away, and what the president is doing today is he's going to make sure that mail-in ballots are safe, secure, and accurate, and will have a clear distinction. If you voted by mail, you will have it on the envelope. Obviously not on the ballot, but on the envelope. So we will know 1 million mail-in ballots. There'll be 1 million envelopes, and you'll be able to know exactly, correctly, that citizens voted.
And this came up with some great legal minds. They looked at the various documents and everything that was going on, because the cheating on mail-in voting is legendary. It's horrible what's gone on. And it's very clearly covered, very, very clearly. So I think this will help a lot with elections. We'd like to have voter ID. We'd like to have proof of citizenship, and that'll be another subject for another time. We're working on that. You would think it would be easy. It's a 98% issue for Republicans. It's 86%. The thing just came out, a poll, and it's 86% with Republicans and Democrats, not leaders, because the leaders of the Democrats cheat.
And the only people that don't want to do voter ID are people that cheat. There's no other reason for it. Proof of citizenship, they want to be able to cheat. There's no reason. They have all sorts of reasons, excuses, but it's all nonsense. They want to cheat. But the Democrats themselves are very high. It's a very positive, very good thing. The Democrat voters, the Democrat leaders, guys like Schumer, who are corrupt, they want to use it for cheating because their policy is so bad with, think of their policy, open borders for everybody, where people pour into our country from countries all over the world. Think of that. You look at, just take any issue, take anything, everything they have is so crazy. But the fact that they don't want to sign voter ID is another issue. It's a big issue. The fact that they don't have proof of citizenship, that they...
So, where's the brilliance in this? You guys know, if you're new to the show, one, introduce yourself on whatever chat you're watching to the audience. We have a very great family here. There's probably some trolls. I haven't seen anybody bring my attention to them yet. I've been trying to keep an eye on that. But very great community here on the AlphaWarrior Show. So introduce yourself and let us know what state or country you're in. But my background comes from not just military, but I did almost a decade and a half in law enforcement, where I ran operations and I worked as a detective. And so a lot of my mindset and thought process comes from that perspective. That's what I know. That's how I'm built. And so why do I think this is brilliant? Check this out, folks. One of the things that a lot of us talked about, and I think there was some pretty good agreement on a lot of people that are talking about the operational planning on what does this white hat operation look like with regards to the election in this second administration as we approach midterms. And the one thing that was pretty consistent was whatever Trump does, they're going to try to counter it with the courts. Like that's an obvious. I think everybody gets that. And so there was, I think, a pretty good agreement that whatever he is going to do, he has to do it in a way that inhibits them to use lawfare against him. Now, how does he do that when last year we're like, he's got to start firing these judges? And we're like, he does. Now, some did, or some have. And if you guys remember, for those of you that have been following the show for quite some time, you're like, when are the arrests coming? I told everybody. And some of you guys remember this, and you can back me up on this in the chats. I said one of the big markers that we know arrests are going to be coming down the pipeline is when you see judges and DAs start to resign, get investigated, fired, or arrested. I said that's one of the last markers that we will see preceding the arrests, because that shows that they're securing the apparatus that's going to try to make these people go free. And if you've been watching the news these last few weeks, we're seeing judges investigated, resigned, arrested. Some retiring. You could argue maybe some of them they're tired of the BS. But I would acknowledge, or at least I would speculate, some of those retirements are probably forced. But here's what's important. Here's where I'm getting. If Trump knows that these judges still exist, and he knows that Congress is going to help weaponize this lawfare, like we just saw Gavin Newsom, and I didn't have it here to show you, but you had Adam Schiff come out and say, we're going to go to court. We're going to go to court on this, right? Well, what Trump did is he said, look, states, you run your elections. He's not challenging them in that avenue, because they probably would win given the setup that we have right now. But what he said is we control the U.S. mail. That's a federal instrument. And right then I was like, holy shit. I see what they're doing. This is genius. Again, timing's everything. He's been pushing the SAVE Act, the SAVE Act, the SAVE Act. And remember I told you guys, the likelihood of the SAVE Act passing, I'm like 9-1 that it's not. But anybody watching the news and following Trump be like, that's what the deep state knows that he's going for. He's calling for it. He's calling for it. That's where his money's at. And so while their attention is not passing it, right? Because you have the House that's passed it twice. Again, the Senate's not passing it. The Save America Act. Got to say it right. So Trump, don't send me an email and say, what's wrong with you? Not the SAVE Act, Save America Act. Well, while they're focusing on that, Lutnick, Trump, or these other brilliant minds were orchestrating a plan that now, even if they want to fight it, There's not a big window. Even if they try to do the version of whatever ex parte looks like at the federal level, there's still not a lot of time there. And why is this important? Because they don't have enough time to think of an alternative logistical route to accomplish this. There is no private apparatus that exists where they can do the mail-in ballots to the levels that they need to cheat. They can't do it. They can't, folks. I have reached out to some people that are that use the mail system for mass mailings and stuff like that. And I said, is there another apparatus? And they said, no, there's not for something on that magnitude. There's nothing that exists to do that to that level. You would need to build that infrastructure. Trump knew that was going to happen, folks. And again, if you think that he only planned this in the last few months, this has been planned since the get-go. Since Trump 1.0, this has always been planned this way. And again, he still has a contingency for that. And that's going to be in an article that I know you guys have all been waiting for, and my apologies, regarding elections and Posse Comitatus and martial law and the Insurrection Act. But again, this was a genius plan by the president. This will now push us into the Tulsi Gabbard, DNI Gabbard 101. This woman is like, this is the superwoman of Trump's administration, you know. And remember who's been attacking her. Remember the people that have been telling you she needs to resign, she needs to do this. Remember those names, folks. Chicago One Ray puts out Tulsi Gabbard message to America, 1 year in review. As Director of National Intelligence, we will be ensuring the security of our nation. As we focus on external threats, we recognize there are insider threats coming from deep state actors. How about a thumbs up for Tulsi? So let's start off with hearing Tulsi's year in review. I think this will probably be the longest video we see tonight. Actually, no, there's not. There's one that is a little bit longer. But this one's about 3 minutes or so. But let's hear Tulsi give us her perspective of a year in review from her side.
Pledged to the American people that his administration would confront our nation's greatest challenges head on, and enacting his America First agenda focused on keeping America safe, secure, and free. As Director of National Intelligence, we have been and will continue to be focused on that mandate, ensuring the security of our nation and protecting the constitutional rights and civil liberties every American is guaranteed. And President Trump has already taken historic action immediately to secure our borders in record time and designated several cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, a move that has empowered our National Counterterrorism Center here at ODNI to deploy over 2 decades of counterterrorism expertise towards detecting and deterring cartels and gangs like never before. In just 1 year, this designation by President Trump prevented more than 10,000 individuals with direct ties to narco-terrorism from accessing our country. And we work very closely with our partners at the federal, state, and local level. We've assisted them in the apprehensions of several cartel terrorists, including a Sinaloa cartel boss known as El Pato, who allegedly led a vast network of drug trafficking, extortion, kidnapping, and murder. Another example is a CJNG-affiliated baby trafficker called La Diabla, who preyed on vulnerable pregnant women in Mexico, lured them to remote areas, cut out their babies, harvested their organs, and sold these newborn babies. These are just a few examples of the progress that's been made toward ending the gang and cartel violence that's plagued the American people and put our lives at risk for far too long. As we focus on external threats, we also recognize that there are still insider threats coming from deep state actors who have politicized and weaponized our institutions and our intelligence against the very citizens that they are charged to serve and protect. Now, thanks to President Trump's leadership and his day one executive orders, we've been focused on transparency and accountability. First, declassifying over 500,000 government documents in a single year. We exposed the Russia collusion hoax, this fabricated so-called intelligence engineered by the Obama administration to orchestrate what was essentially a coup. using lawfare, manufactured investigations and impeachments and harassment, subverting the will of the American people in the deep state's attempt to delegitimize the president and the American people who elected him. Now, there's so much more work to be done. The American people deserve the truth, accountability, and justice from our government. The integrity of our democratic republic depends on it. President Trump vowed to eradicate waste, fraud, and abuse throughout the government, respecting your hard-earned taxpayer dollars. At ODNI, we enacted historic change. We streamlined our workforce by 40%, shut down unnecessary facilities and contracts, saving taxpayers more than $700 million per year. We are continuing this work, building a team and an organization that is laser-focused on national security, intelligence integration, and oversight. We've made a lot of progress, but there is a lot more work to be done. So every day, our time, our energy, and our work remains focused on our mission and our mandate, the safety, security, and freedom of the American people.
Why would anybody want us to get rid of this weapon? So now let's get into some of this stuff. Political puts out Gabbard plans to shift coveted CIA-backed high-tech fund to her office. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is finalizing a plan to assume responsibility for CIA-backed venture capital firm In-Q-Tel. This is huge, folks. Let me just read a little bit to you. I don't remember this one being too long, but let me just read some. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence is finalizing a plan to become the primary federal steward of a CIA-backed venture capital firm that funds high-tech gadgets and software for U.S. spies, according to 6 people with knowledge of the effort. If approved, the move would shift intelligence community oversight of the firm, In-Q-Tel, away from the CIA, which started the Tech Innovation Fund more than 25 years ago, and nested under the Director of the National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, whose office oversees the U.S. spy community. But there are those in the intel community and Congress who oppose the idea. Of course they do. Setting up a bureaucratic tussle that would test Gabbard's standing inside Trump's administration with Congress. Supporters of the change argue that In-Q-Tel caters too much to tech needs of the CIA over other defense and intelligence agencies, such as the National Reconnaissance Office of the FBI. And I'll land it here on this last paragraph. Congress funds In-Q-Tel through the CIA, which also hosts a liaison office that helps set In-Q-Tel's investment priorities. ODNI, which was funded to improve coordination across the expansive network of federal spy agencies after 9/11, did not exist at the time of In-Q-Tel's funding in 1999. So why is this important? And, let me bring this down real quick because I'm going to show you guys this video. Yeah, give me 1 second. I just want to set up this video I want you guys to listen to. This is the one I told you I had to change. I just want to make sure that this thing's ready to go. Okay, so why is this important? Remember, timing is everything. Everything that's going on, remember, if you've been watching since the beginning of the show, a choke point. Well, if we know CIA bad, right? And granted, yes, I know there's some good people there, but unfortunately, the bad ones have worked their way into the position of influence and power. And if we know that the CIA is bad, remember last year, Trump offered these guys a buyout. Let me buy you out, right? That shows you that Trump doesn't want them around, all right? Now, granted, he did put Ratcliffe there. I'm still tolling with that. But to this point, at this time in the game, what's going on? We're approaching midterms. What does the CIA use In-Q-Tel for? Well, we know that it's, well, I shouldn't say we definitely know, but we definitely suspect that this is a tool that's being used in leverage. This is a tool that's being used to see, who's operating with who. And if you put this under the DNI, you just took away their tool. Remember, they need to steal the elections. They need to steal midterms. You've taken away their funding with USAID, with the National Endowment for Democracy, NED, with the NGOs. You've taken away their muscle with the cartels and the mass deportations that are taking place, especially through self deportations, because everybody wants to ignore that number. You've taken away their money. You've taken away their workforce, their rank and file. Now you're taking away their intelligence tools, and you're using their congressmen that were helping to facilitate all this to put them in the hot seat so that they snitch. Tell me that doesn't sound like, and obviously this is only us, formulating this assessment with the stuff that's made its way to the public sphere. Even with that, tell me that this is an operation that hasn't been planned for a very long time. You can't. This is phenomenal. Now let's take a listen to this, and I hope it plays. I was trying to download this one for you guys, and it would download. It kept playing it in it sounded like Chinese or something. So let me bring this up so you guys can listen to this.
Artificial intelligence capabilities are rapidly advancing and changing the threat landscape. As this is a defining technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, creativity, and autonomy, it'll be critical to ensure that humans remain in control of how AI is used and of the machines that may threaten to autonomously violate the interests of the American people across all domains. The IC assesses that China is the most capable competitor in this field and aims to displace the U.S. as the global AI leader by 2030. AI adoption at scale across the spectrum of usage poses serious risks. AI has the potential to aid in weapons and systems design and has been used in recent conflicts to influence targeting and streamline decision-making, underscoring the risk and likely threats that could manifest on the battlefield. Early developers in quantum computers will give countries an extraordinary technological advantage over others to quickly process national security information and break current encryption methodology used to protect sensitive finance, healthcare, and government information.
Director Gabbard, what is your assessment of the quality and quantity of AI compute that China can indigenously manufacture?
The majority of this question should be addressed in a closed hearing. The intelligence community's assessment is that China continues to rapidly advance its AI capability.
Do you assess that export controls on semiconductor manufacturing equipment and AI compute have been effective, slowing the development and deployment of Chinese AI?
The intelligence community's assessment is that one of the effects of those export controls is China has increased its focus on developing its own organic capability.
What do you assess would be the economic and national security impacts if the U.S. decided to loosen export controls and allow the sale of NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs or large numbers of H200s to China?
I don't believe there is an intelligence community assessment on that specific scenario.
I'd love to find out, Director Ratcliffe, what would be the economic and national security implications if China were to catch up on the U.S. on memory, GPUs, critical minerals, all those things that go into everything in leading up to this, including the advent of AI?
Well, what you've seen, Congresswoman, is that when China can take advantage of things in the supply chain like critical minerals, they'll do that. This is particularly problematic in the area of all emerging technologies and AI in particular. Obviously, whoever is dominant in the technology fields in the future will dictate the rules in the international marketplace. It would be devastating if China were ahead of us.
Hold on, folks. I need to get back our main screen. Again, while I'm doing that, I'll try to multitask. So, which is not always so easy, but there we got it going. Not too bad. And let me get me back to where I was. All right. That's the only time we had to do that during the show. Why is this all so important? Remember, Tulsi's working RICO cases. Remember, Tulsi is trying to bring In-Q-Tel under her oversight. Tulsi is acknowledging this AI race, this intelligence race, essentially the spying that's taking place between our governments and the deep state that exists in China. And it's all happening at once. And it's all, now granted, a lot of people would argue this is very dangerous because one hiccup and it's very hard to adjust a plan that has 100 plans in play at once. And I agree with that. But I also think that the amount of brains, and I think we are talking at a minimum some type of quantum intelligence that I at least would assume is being used. And I know from talking to some of my friends that are in some roles within helping our government, you would say, they've blown my mind with some of the abilities of the AI tools that are quote unquote in these beta versions that are using. It just blows my mind. So imagine what they're using at the military intelligence level or with Tulsi. All of that is happening right now. That means there is no way, and this is my assessment, but I'd bet the house on this. There's no way that the deep state is communicating with their public puppets and it's not being monitored, captured, and saved as evidence. Remember the famous phrase, we have it all? This is the how we have it all is happening right now in real time. Now, do I believe the deep state has some other sophisticated ways of communications? I do, that we can't tap into. I do, but those are with the actors that are not the public facing puppets. And those people, here's the caveat. When you start to remove the people like the Swalwells and others, when you start to remove the MS-13, when you start to arrest these people, well, those people that have operated behind the curtain, the names, because listen, folks, the Obamas, the Hillary Clintons, these are not the people in charge. They're not. When you remove the public-facing puppets, you now force those people that have spent decades, if not longer, hiding behind the curtain to now have to show themselves. And that is how the white hats start to identify who's who. We had some gifted subscriptions that came in, and I wasn't able to get to them fast enough. So if somebody knows on Rumble who gifted those subscriptions, it was 2 of them. If you can please let me know in the chat, because I'd love to give them a shout out. My apologies for not getting to that fast enough, and they disappeared on me. So if somebody can let me know that name so I can give them some love. In the meantime, let's give some love to a new member over there in the YouTube family. And Samuel Moore, 784, has become a YouTube member. Thank you, Samuel, for joining the family. It's much appreciated. And I know there's a delay, so hopefully here momentarily somebody will tell me who is the one that gifted those subscriptions on Rumble. Come on, somebody. Alan, you got to know who it was. You're like my informal like producer, bro. Got to help me out here. Well, we'll see, and we'll wait for it to come. And until then, let's continue on with this conversation. And let's see. DK puts out 20 CIA and FBI insiders confirmed that Barack Obama and a former CIA director orchestrated the entire Russia hoax and then hid it in a CIA vault for nearly a decade. And Flying Storm. Okay, so shout out. Thank you. See, I knew you guys would have my back. So shout out to Flying Storm that gifted those subscriptions over there on Rumble. I much appreciate that. You know, nobody owns this show, folks. If you're new, there is no contracts. This show is whatever me and you guys make it out to be. So again, thank you, Flying Storm, over there on Rumble for gifting those subscriptions. And thank you for the audience over there on Rumble saving my bacon on that one. But let's take a listen to this because I do have this clip.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. DNI Gabbard has made referrals.
Yeah.
And why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word.
Again, folks, Brennan is in the hot seat, and you're probably going to see some fireworks this week surrounding Brennan. You see what's going on there in the Southern District of Florida with Judge Cannon. Are we going to see an indictment or even an arrest? I think probably the thing I would bet on is more likely an indictment, given the grand jury and the route that they're going. But remember, so just to put in, why is John Brennan so important? And they all are. I mean, you can go down the list. They all need to be indicted and arrested and held accountable. But John Brennan is to the deep state what General Flynn is to the good guys. He's their chess master. He's their guy. And so when the pressure is applied to Brennan and he's removed, that is a huge blow to the deep state. Now, understand this. Brennan is also going to be the guy that's going to be like, you're not going to let them do this to me, to the deep state. He's going to be the one that's going to say, remember when Hillary Clinton says, if I go down taking everybody with me? Brennan's the guy that can actually make that happen. And so my anticipation is that when the move is made on Brennan, we're going to see fireworks. And we're probably going to see false flags. And I think that the FBI and our military intelligence has done a phenomenal job to subdue their ability to maximize the destruction or loss of life or property with regards to that. But we're still going to see some. I just don't think they're going to be what they need them to be. But again, Brennan. Now this next clip, this is the one I was kind of telling you guys about earlier. That's going to be the longest clip. It's 8 minutes, and I'm going to play the whole thing because it is that important. This really paints a good picture to what's going on. So if you're someone that's like, I don't really know, I got to give it up to Jesse on this one. This is a great clip. So if you've already seen it, this may be the time to go refill your coffee or go make a real quick head call. It's about 8 minutes, but this is a solid one. So again, this was the post that I read, but I played the video from the other post. But again, this will catch us up. So let's take a listen.
Fox News alert, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing a bombshell report today that shows a conspiracy by a sitting president, Barack Obama, and his intel agencies to sabotage the president-elect, Donald Trump, brainwash the electorate, and undermine the legitimacy of an election.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
Gabbard got her hands on a House intel report that's been locked away in a CIA vault for almost a decade. Investigators spent over 2,000 hours looking into how the Russia hoax was born, interviewing 20 CIA and FBI officials. And it turns out that the Obama administration doctored the intelligence to make it look like Putin and Trump stole the election. A month after Trump beat Hillary, Barack Obama wasn't satisfied with his intelligence reporting and ordered his CIA director to create a new assessment of how Russia interfered with the election. This was a highly unusual move. John Brennan handpicked 5 CIA analysts to write the assessment, and they were siloed. None of them knew what the other was doing. And only one analyst was in charge of drafting this report. There was nothing routine about this, and it was a rush job to publish before Trump was sworn in. Nothing was coordinated with the other intelligence agencies either. Basically, this was home cooking for Barack Obama. There were 4 key elements from the assessment that were repeated over and over again and formed the basis of the Russia hoax and the Robert Mueller witch hunt. 1, that Vladimir Putin wanted Donald Trump to win. 2, Putin took action to help Trump win. 3, the Russians had blackmail on Trump. That was the Steele dossier. And 4, that the Russians tried colluding with the Trump campaign. None of any of this was ever true. There was no reliable intelligence to support any of these allegations. Senior CIA officials repeatedly refused to traffic in these allegations, but they were repeatedly overruled by CIA Director Brennan and FBI Director Comey, who insisted that they be pushed, even without verifiable evidence. The Obama administration cherry-picked the intelligence, lied about their sources, misquoted sources, didn't corroborate their claims, suppressed intelligence that ran counter to their narratives, and even used anonymous internet postings. Rank and file CIA admitted what they were doing violated their own tradecraft standards. There was a massive pressure campaign that came right from the top. CIA analysts say they received unusual directives from political appointees, the CIA director, and Obama himself. This is how the Russia hoax was born.
Donald Trump knows that the Russians helped him win in 2016.
Putin hated Secretary Clinton so much that the flip side of that coin was he had a clear preference for the person running against the person he hated so much.
It was Russia in a very systematic way tried to interfere in the election and to try to advance the prospects of Donald Trump being elected.
This was such a malicious disinformation campaign perpetrated on the American people that at one point, 60% of Democrats believed the Russians hacked our voting machines to help Trump win the White House. What this report actually shows is that the Russians just wanted to create chaos and undermine Americans' faith in democracy. Solid intelligence suggested that Vladimir Putin didn't care who won. He had no preference. But like most people, expected Hillary to win and had a little docket of compromising dirt on her, dirt that he never released. Now, if Putin wanted Trump to win, why didn't Putin drop the dirt?
There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump.
Now, if Clinton was on tranquilizers like the Russians believed, why didn't they leak it to help Trump win?
How credible was the information about Hillary Clinton's health?
All I have seen is what the Intelligence Committee have reported through their investigation. I think the underlying point there is that we understand from intelligence what Russia said that they had. And the important point here is that if they were trying to influence the election, as President Obama and James Clapper and John Brennan, everybody said they were doing in order to support Donald Trump's election, they would have released the most damning of that information.
Obama and his spy chiefs knew that Putin didn't prefer Trump over Hillary, but they cooked the intelligence to make it look like he did. Obama and his intel spies knew that Putin didn't collude with Trump and that he didn't even direct his people to help Trump win. But they put it out there anyway. In a sense, Barack Obama did exactly what Putin wanted, undermined Americans' faith in free and fair elections and caused chaos in our country. Barack Obama, the CIA, and the FBI were the ones doing what our enemy wanted.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Even 2 years later, after the election, Barack Obama was still pushing a hoax he knew wasn't true. And he knew it wasn't true because he helped manufacture it.
They're undermining our alliances, cozying up to Russia. What happened to the Republican Party? They're cozying up to the former head of the KGB. Actively blocking legislation that would defend our elections from Russian attack. What happened?
Now, I don't know if it's possible to indict a former president for actions he took while in office. I'm not a lawyer, proudly. But Brennan, Comey, and others may have severe liability. Trey Gowdy says we know for a fact that Brennan committed perjury when he lied to Congress.
Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done. It was not.
Well, that's a lie. Whatever happens to these guys is not revenge. It's accountability. And it's time for people to pay the price.
It's definitely going to be retribution. I know that was a long clip, but I think you guys would agree with me. It's a phenomenal breakdown in a short version, because it's still considered a short version, to kind of encapsulate all that. And again, to make sure everybody has an understanding of what's going on. Folks, you know, I get what Jesse's saying. You know, can a former president, you know, be held criminally liable for the actions done as president? And I think the fair answer to that, outside of treason, is it's too hard. But again, if you look at what they're doing in some of the other shows that we've talked about with this criminal enterprise, the ongoing continuing conspiracy doctrine, right? This is what eliminates the concern everybody has with the statute of limitations. Look how far back they're going with some of these things. If you go far back enough to show that the elections that put President Obama into office were fraudulent, stolen, criminal, and that Obama knew that he was not a suspect witness in this situation, that he knew that he was part of this criminal enterprise that put him into office, and you can remove. And here's the thing: I don't think there's no precedence of this, of removing the formal title, right? But if we go down that route, well, then all of a sudden those protections are absent, because he was an actor, not an actual president. So we'll see. I ain't trying to get too far ahead of us. But again, you see what's unfolding. And again, remember the people that you've heard or seen post things about Tulsi needs to be removed. She needs to resign. Remember those people, folks, and ask yourself, why? Why did they want to help make that happen? So I respond to Ed Martin's post, and I'm going to show you his post right now in a second. I said, the father of Rico, hire him, Mr. President, and then set him loose. Allow him to answer directly to you with no one in between, and provide him top cover. Who am I talking about? Eagle Ed Martin will point down to this post. Jason Cohen puts out new. Rudy Giuliani shares what he'd do as Attorney General. I do a special division of about 50 or 60 lawyers, and I'd put them on this. Get us the answer as to what happened in 2020. This is the second longest clip. This one's about 4 minutes, but it's important. Remember, Giuliani is considered the father of Rico. I would love to see this guy in some capacity, either the AG or working directly with the AG. And here's why.
So say you were Attorney General tomorrow. What would you do in terms of bringing accountability, which is the one thing so many Republicans say to me, they lament?
I would put together, I wouldn't do a special prosecutor, but I'd do a special division. You know how you have the criminal division, the civil rights division, and this division, and that division. I do a division maybe of about 50 or 60 lawyers, and I'd put them on this, on what happened, get us the answer as to what happened in 2020, both with regard to one group would deal with the crimes against the United States, which they committed, and the other would deal
As
with
in the election. Right, the election.
And let's get the answer to
and
it.
the cover-up of Joe Biden's crimes.
Right.
Right.
And we're either going to indict people or we're going to explain to people why we can't. And we're going to create we're going to write history. Like Churchill said, whoever writes history makes history, right? And
so kind of a RICO case, conspiracy case, like you did against the 5 families.
Yeah, it's tailor-made for it. I mean, it's like every once in a while you go for a suit and you put it on and nothing has to be done. This is a suit, you just put your right in it.
And who are the top capos?
Well, I mean, I have a chart that goes back to probably 3 months after I first got the information. So I first got the information in November and December of 2019.
About Ukraine and Biden.
And I'm talking to Shokin and the others in early. So by March, I put together an outline of the point man RICO case. The other two would have been China, which I knew enough about China then to be able to put it in the case. But I didn't have the solid evidence of that. That would have had to have. And also we had that 3.5 million very odd payment from Russia.
So are you saying the Biden, the Hillary Clinton, the 2020 election are all connected?
100%. I think they started somewhere in, and I think it all starts in, from the best that I have, it all starts somewhere in it all starts in Obama's office in the famous meeting in which they all either find out or make it clear they were aware of the fact that she's going to develop this false story, pay for it, and use it against Trump. And they're going to use it to defeat Trump.
Russia collusion.
Right. They're going to use it to defeat Trump. And then when it doesn't work, of course, who is it that says we have insurance?
Oh, yeah, Peter Strzok, the FBI.
Yeah. He comes to the conclusion we can't prove this now. Actually, he knows it's untrue. But he says he knows that there's a lot more they can continue. Yeah. And the other thing that's really important here is Ukraine played a very active role in it. It's not as if they were, when I say Ukraine, I don't mean the Ukrainian people. I love the Ukrainian people, but their political structure is horrible. And they were owned by the Democrats. One of the prosecutors there said, since 2014, we've been like a cash cow for the Democrat Party and a few of your people. I said, would you tell me who our people are? He said, he either said, I don't think I should, or I'm not sufficiently knowledgeable.
So I saw in the chat, people are like, America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani got effed. He did. And some people are saying, did he get his bar license back? I don't think he did. He was disbarred in New York, and I don't think he's gotten that back. However, no panic, folks. State AGs, depending what state you're talking about, you do have to, or at least I want to say majority of them, you have to be a lawyer to be the state AG, not federally. You do not have to be a lawyer to be appointed to the federal attorney general. So just know that if Trump wanted to go that route with Rudy, he could. And so sounds like Rudy's put some solid thought into this. And what I would say, given Rudy's relationship with President Trump, whether he is the formal attorney general, I would imagine at a minimum, he would still be advising whoever the attorney general is on how to continue to facilitate this. But here, let me just come out and say it. Fuck it, right? Rudy's the father of RICO, folks. Okay, he's the father of Rico. If you think he hasn't been helping or advising Tulsi Gabbard, we've all lost our damn mind. You don't have the father of Rico not be involved in some capacity, whether it's through as a civilian advisor, whatever the case may be. There's no way, in my opinion, there's no way that he hasn't already been a part of this. And so, like I said, whether he becomes the AG or not, Rudy's involved. That is my opinion. He is absolutely involved. With that, folks, we're going to do the last ad to the night as we bring this show into a landing. It looks like we're doing decent on time. We're at the 2.5 hour mark where I thought we'd be done. And this last part, we're going to fly through pretty quick anyway. So let me bring this up on the screen for you guys to see. When I say screen, I'm talking about for the Rumble audience. So if you're like, I don't see the QR, well, that's because you got to join us over here on Rumble. So if you guys are not aware, MCG Tactical, right? A bunch of great gear that's over there. Guys, you know how dialing in your optic can burn through boxes of ammo and half your weekend? And if you're in California like me, bro, like that's expensive, folks. But it does. Well, not anymore. With the Bore Sighter, you can zero in any optic in under 90 seconds without firing a single shot. That's money for more toys. This thing's a total game changer. Zero faster than ever. Fits anything from a .17 to a 50 cal. No ammo, no range time, USB rechargeable, ready to go every time. Whether you're getting prepped for hunting season or just like keeping your gear dialed in, the Bore will save you time, money, and a whole lot of frustration. To grab yours, just scan the QR code on your screen or head over to mcgtac.com/alphabore to get the faster, easiest way to zero your optic, period. Again, down in the description box, you'll see it, folks. The faster, easier, smarter way to zero. Scan the QR code right now, or again, visit mcgtac.com/alphabore right now. And so with that, let me bring this back up on the screen and let's move into our next segment, which should be, we're going to get into some QComs. And then after that, we'll be taking it into the Pope conversation. So Scavino puts out this post on April the 10th, 5:01 my time. So 8:01 a.m. Eastern, 15-second video. And you see the gold eagle with, what I would assume the Constitution or one of our founding documents under it. Now, interesting part on this is I want you to let me stop this when it gets to the desk again. Let me let it zoom in a little bit more. I want to get at the last second before it disappears. All right. Let me go big screen with that. So you see the color scheme on the new Air Force One, right? And Mystery Rider says 2-hour show, Alpha. Impossible. One day, Mystery Rider. But we're definitely doing good. We're definitely not going to be too much longer. So at least it's not a 5-hour show. But look at the color scheme here, folks. This is the new Air Force One, right? That Trump's working on. And okay, Alpha, we're looking at it. Why is that significant? Well, let me minimize this. And let's go to this Yahoo article. The last known person to see JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette alive reveals his private concerns about their flight exclusive. Now, we're not going to read the article, but we're going to scroll and show you something right here. Did Trump just use the color scheme for Air Force One from Junior's plane? Like, is this just a coincidence? Is this a signal? I mean, I don't know. Listen, I know the people that I've talked to that I feel are in the know. They've all told me JFK Jr. is not alive. Now, would they be able to tell me if he was anyways? No, they shouldn't tell me if he was, right? That would be irresponsible on something so important. So, again, What are your thoughts in the chat? We're going to get into some other things here with regards to the timestamp and the date of the Scavino video. But again, Air Force One color scheme and JFK Jr.'s plane, like, you can't argue that. Like that's pretty significant. So let me know, you guys, down in the comments. You guys were wild the last time in the comments. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think. You think that Trump did this on purpose, or do you think it's just a common color scheme? I'd like to know what you guys think. But now let's get into the timestamp. So 8:01 for the first one brings us to a February 21st date, and it says AG Sessions, U.S. Cyber Task Force, important. Now let's rewind earlier into the conversation where we're talking Tulsi Gabbard. Remember, InQtel. Remember her talking artificial intelligence, her talking about the, with the spine and everything going on with China. Trust Sessions. Sessions has a very important purpose. I don't think we're done with him. Has Sessions been working with Tulsi? I don't know. I'm asking a legitimate question. We get Scavino doing an 8:01 timestamp. AG Sessions and U.S. Cyber Task Force seem pretty damn relevant to some of that stuff. I don't know, but it definitely caught my attention. And then, of course, important. I mean, the posts, let me zoom in on this for you guys. My apologies. I'm over here, making you guys probably squint your eyes and stuff. Somebody's got to remind me in the chat, like, Alpha, come on, help us. But again, important. I mean, listen, we'll see. We're going to know. We're definitely probably going to find out together, right? But I think given the conversations with Tulsi, given the fact that, Trust Sessions, and given the fact that we're talking InQtel and all these other things, I think there's a there. And then if we go to post 15, because of the length of the video, just for those wondering where the 15 came from, that'll bring us to October 31st of 2017, which is post 15. And this is a fairly popular one. And it's actually come up a couple times in the last few weeks, especially with the Wizards and the Warlocks. But again, this does give us the 11.3 Podesta indicted. They never thought they were going to lose control of the presidency, and Godspeed, Patriots. P.S. Soros is targeted. And Soros has been making the headlines lately. So was this a strategic twofer, with Scavino? Maybe what's a trifecta if we're betting on horses? We get the JFK plane, we get the Sessions, and we get the 11.3 or maybe the Soros. I mean, there's a lot here. I don't think you could really go wrong with any one of those. They all kind of fit, and you're not even having to force these to fit. Like, the context is there. So I think that's pretty significant. Let's see what else we got going on here. LASQ puts out Q posts 12:49, April 23rd, which is in a couple days. Red Cross Iran, Red Cross Pakistan, Red Cross North Korea, Red Cross ... Define smuggle. What is smuggled? What funds are used to pay for the goods? These people are sick. Relevant to events about to unfold. Follow the executive orders. Now, this is important. Why? LASQ is putting this in regards to this one. If you guys saw it, do I have the video for here? I do. Here, it's 46 seconds. Let me play this for you guys. So for those of you that haven't said it, it'll make sense to what we're talking about.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as the doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better. As an example, the 11,000, I understand your husband's going through treatment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's going through some very serious cancer treatment, so
yes, sir.
This goes a long way.
Yes, sir, it sure does.
Yeah.
So let me fix the adjustment because that was pretty loud. So there's a funny comment. Constitution 1976 over there in the Rumble chat says, you must have a lot of bills. Bro or ma'am, I'm not sure which one you are. You have no idea. Definitely. Listen, I'm a father of 6 girls. 4 of them are adults, and a son. And for those that you missed the news in the last couple of days, I just found out from myself. Well, I found out a little while ago, but she gave me the green light to be able to say it publicly now. Is I'm going to be a grandpa. Alpha is going to be a grandpa of twins. So my second oldest, little princess. So yeah, I got a lot of bills, including 2 grandbabies on their way. Plus, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of us that try to do this the right way, you don't just get to use any kind of music, to pay for the copyrights, to pay for a lot of these different sites to put this entire thing together. To do it the right way actually costs money. And again, we already have a lot of hardships with some of these copyrights on one of the platforms. I won't say because I don't want to get on there when they go and have AI run through the show, be like, he's trashing on us. Let's get rid of them. But yeah, definitely a lot of bills. But listen, I at least try to space them out. I try to space out the ads, and the content is free. So, throw me a bone there, Constitution. Throw me a bone. Doc Eads gifting 5 subscriptions. Thank you, Doc Eads. So again, but back into this conversation, right? So Trump goes and, mentions the Red Cross, and April 23rd, that's in, let's say, do Marine Corps math. Today's the 18th, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So 5 days, in a couple of hours from now. Very interesting. But what's even more interesting is, let's go into this next post. MJ Truth Ultra puts out, are we finally going to learn about the Red Cross? So keep watching the video and let's see what's he talking about. Look at all that cash. I'm not gonna play the whole video. It's 2 minutes and it keeps, essentially showing the same thing over and over. But I want you guys to see at least another 1 or 2 of these things. Look at all that cash. Somebody can drop one of those in a Rumble rant, tell you, but definitely not knowing that. And Indian Toast says, congratulations on becoming a grandpa Alpha. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm very excited. Very, very excited for that. And they do open a few more. So come on, let's show some more receipts, folks. I should have did increase the speed on this video, but look at this. Look at that. A lot of cash. Now, again, why does that matter? Let's go back over here to the post that LASQ put. Define smuggle. What is smuggled? What funds are used to pay for the goods? And again, that's coming around the corner. So what does it tell us? Follow the executive orders. This is all coming to a head, folks. If for so long we've all been saying we're on the precipice, I think there's just been a lot of precipices, right? But there's definitely something that we're about to see pop off. And again, Trump's done everything else: USAID, NAD, the NGOs, everything. So maybe we do see some stuff on the Red Cross. Then we move to LASQ again, who was on fire. April 12th, Q1139. You have it all. We certainly do. And I have this one. It's short. It's only like 10 seconds. Take a listen. 12 seconds.
Favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it.
Well, April 12th. And April 12th, you have it all. We certainly do. Again, folks, many will try to tell you, the Q's never, they always put out numbers and dates and deltas. It never happens. I mean, damn, like, how many have we shown just tonight? Let's keep going because this next one's pretty. RevDQ, great account. You should follow them. 17 different angles. President Trump. Listen, folks, you just got to hear it yourself. This is solid. This is one of my favorites.
So Venezuela has been an incredible situation. We went in, we were very successful, military power like nobody's ever seen. The general, Venezuelan general said, I was on that site. I said, I've never seen ferocity like that. I've been doing this for 40 years. He said, I've never seen anything. They hit us from 17 different, they were all set. They saw that big, beautiful aircraft carrier, the Ford in that case, and planes were pouring off it at 1 o'clock in the morning. So typically when you see that late at night, you know, you could be in trouble, right? And we were all ready. They had their equipment. It was Russian. and they had Chinese equipment. It was all set. They were going to give us a fight. He said, and then they came, and they came at speeds like we've never seen. And they came at 17 different angles. The general and his people, that was a lot of angles. They hit him from every angle. He said, we knew it was over in 3 minutes. We were waiting for them. Their equipment didn't work, and there's a reason it didn't work. Someday we'll explain that to people. They pressed the button, nothing happened. They pressed it again and again, nothing happened. And he said, we knew this whole thing was over in 3 minutes. We've never seen any, he used the word ferocity. The ferocity of these planes from 17 different angles, and it was over. They went inside. And remember, that was on a military base with thousands of soldiers. And those soldiers looked and they said, get the hell out of here. Thousands. We didn't have thousands. We had like 200 people. So we have a great military. And I'll tell you what, somehow this rescue captured the world's attention, more so than normally. You're talking about 2 people. But this rescue captured the world's attention.
Listen, but 3 different 17s we get right there, folks, right? There's some other stuff. You mentioned Ford, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. I might be reaching on that one, but still, I found it interesting. 17. Who says 17 angles? Come on, especially you guys that have been in the military. If we'd probably say a dozen angles, right? But you're not going to see someone that, from 24 angles. You wouldn't get that. You'd be a dozen angles or, 10 plus or a lot. Nobody reports, nobody sit reps, right? 17 angles, right? But yet, Trump chooses to use that number. Can I just get a bunch of keks in the live chats? Can you guys just go ballistic with keks in the live chat? Can we let them know that made us happy? And it's everybody just lose your shit in the live chat, and let's just kek. Let's just kek out in the live chat. I mean, come on. A majority of the stuff that's put out there is Trump addressing or threatening the deep state, coming out with operators, or speaking to the normie world, right? He understands you guys already know how to put stuff together. So he doesn't really speak a lot directly to you guys. That's the obvious one. Like, he's talking to you guys. He's talking to us. He's talking to us. And so let's let him know, thank you. You made us happy. 17 angles. Gosh. Thank you on that one, Potus. And I see everybody just going nuts in the chat. I love it. That's just absolutely glorious, folks. It's good. To the Ford. Remember, this statement was made, because remember, we're playing catch up. This was on April 6th. And so 4 days later would have been this post, April 10th, post 11:20. Clarify, Chongqing, Tuesday demand, Xi confirmed tariff reduction, Tuesday China, cars, article provides foundation, major import, Ford.us start. The Ford, I think eventually we are going to see that start to approach China's AO. And when the Ford gets into China's area of operation, that's the start. We're going to see some type of battle with China, folks. And when I'm talking China, I'm talking the deep state. I only say this publicly now because the general talked about it. Other than that, I want to be very clear so people don't get it twisted. When the general came out and talked about the next book that's coming out from the series that him and Boone did together, he informed you guys that an aspect of that, at least, was going to be on China. And so I anticipate that book we will probably see in the near future. And just my speculation, I haven't been told anything, I'm not read in on anything with regards to this. My speculation is that when we see the release of General's book, that sometime within a 6-month to a year window, we're going to see that conflict with China unfold. And that book is going to make things make sense for us. given some of the insight that was shared with me on the content itself. So I just want to put that out there. So if we see the Ford start to make its way towards China, let's make sure we start praying for everybody. But again, I know a lot of people want to doom out and nuclear war and all this. I have faith in God. I have faith in our president. I have faith in our military. And I have faith in these white hats. I think it may seem that way. I don't think any of these people wanted to get to that level. And I don't think it will. I think we'll probably see things get pretty, hot and concerning with regards to China, especially because I know how media is going to run with it. If we saw the way everybody's been, including these operatives with regards to Iran, imagine how they're going to address that when it comes to China. So just consider it and we'll reevaluate as it comes. So now let's get into the final stretch here. Let's get into the Pope and Tucker and Trump. We only got a few videos left, so we're almost done, folks. Ryan Savidra puts Tucker Carlson insinuates that President Trump might be the Antichrist. I'll let you guys listen to what Tucker's saying here. Ryan might have went a little too exaggerated here, but nonetheless, Tucker does say some stuff here that I think needs to be heard as we set up this portion of the show.
And you have to think through, could there be a spiritual component to what we're watching? Is it just a conventional escalation ladder in a badly thought out war with ill-defined goals, and we just wound up in this really tough place where we face either humiliation on the one side or a nuclear launch on the other? That's part of what it is, but could it be something bigger than that? Is it possible that what you're watching is a very stealthy yet incredibly effective attack on what, from a Christian perspective, is the true faith, belief in Jesus? Is that what really is under attack here? Maybe that's what's been under attack for a long time, maybe our whole lifetime. Maybe almost everything we see is an attack on that faith, the one faith that is always attacked, always and everywhere for 2,000 years. Many faiths have been attacked. Many religious people of different religions have been killed over the past 2,000 years. But there's been only one sustained effort to exterminate a faith, and that's the Christian faith. Could that be part of it? And is it possible that the president sees this not just in geostrategic terms, in military terms, in economic terms, got open and straight? Okay. Is it possible the president sees this in bigger terms? Sees this as the fulfillment of something or the elevation to some higher office beyond President of the United States? That's entirely possible. And that's not an attack, but it's also not a guess. Because at every turn since the inauguration last January, there have been religious leaders on the scene telling us out loud. Most of us ignored it because we're just so secular, we just sort of ignore it. Got some sleazy Southern Baptist preacher who says whatever for money. Okay, got it. We've ignored that this could actually be real. There's something going on here.
So, again, can you say that he's implying the Antichrist? Yes, I get that. But nonetheless, what he said still is, I have issue with, implying that, President Trump is trying to fulfill these prophecies or force his way into these biblical prophecies. But nonetheless, whether you subscribe to the idea that Tucker is a bad apple, really did make the CIA, or whether you think that Tucker is a good guy facilitating a role, all plausible, right? You guys know my position, my speculation, but again, all these scenarios are still plausible. This was on April the 6th. Remember that. And why do I want you guys to remember that? One, let's just get into, some words he kept dropping and others have dropped as well. It's going to be biblical, the Great Awakening, right? There was supposed to be another post there that's missing. But Rudy Giuliani came. This one is misplaced. Let me see. I discovered a pattern of corruption that Washington press covered up for years. I'm also going to bring a massive pay-for-play scheme under Obama administration that will devastate the Democratic Party. Do you honestly think I'm intimidated? That was not supposed to be there, but at least you guys heard it. But anyways, again, we also have July 30th, Godfather 3. It's going to be biblical. So you guys have all heard this. It's going to be biblical. You have the movie with Law-Abiding Citizen. It's going to be biblical. You know, this is a term that within the Q community, a lot of people have heard it. A lot of people use it. I like it. But remember, he posted that on the 6th. Pope Francis Archive. This is from 2019, just to be very clear. Let us pray that the Lord will free the victims of human trafficking and help us to respond actively to the cry for help of so many of our brothers and sisters who are deprived of their dignity and freedom in human trafficking. And if you go through the comments, the Pope just gets lit up on this. Lit up. This is all the way back in 2019, folks, where everybody is just like and for, you know, just transparency, you know, I'm Roman Catholic. That's the way I was raised, right? I couldn't say Catholic. Mom be like Roman Catholic, right? Very cultural when it comes to that. And so I'm not picking on the Catholic Church, just in case anybody, you know, takes that out of context. But just through the chats, the Pope just gets hammered here. I mean, you can see like somebody's really pushing the envelope, right? But everybody in the community, right, and even those that didn't really subscribe to, you know, the boards, but still were in the truth community, have all talked about the child trafficking and the child, you know, abuse. I really tried to make this survive on YouTube, but you guys know I'm talking about that certain type of abuse that they do to children, and how the Catholic Church at the leadership positions have covered this up. But all of a sudden, you've seen these same people now that are trying to defend the Pope because of something Trump did. And what is it that we're talking about? Bringing it back to LASQ. Clear your mind and heal. And this is phenomenal. This comes from Trump's Truth Post, which was 6 days after the Tucker comment that I played for you guys. So April 6th, Tucker makes that comment. April 11th or 12th, April 12th, Trump does this post. And if any of you have social media or watch podcasts, the internet lost its fucking mind when Trump came out and did this, right? And then, of course, if we go back to the video that we just played a little while ago with the DoorDash lady, which took us into the Red Cross conversation, Trump's like, nah, I was a doctor, a healer, right? Because Trump control it. Ain't no one buying that, right? Even us that love Trump and support him are like, bro, bro, really? We know exactly what's being depicted here, right? But I feel like Trump is trolling Tucker in that community of people. He's forcing them to get aggravated and expose themselves, because this is important before the mass D-class comes in. So, but LASQ finds this post. It's from April 16th, so it was about 4 days before the boards would hit this marker. And it says, clear your mind and heal. And I find it fascinating that that's exactly what's happening in this art depiction that Trump put on his Truth social post. He's clear your mind. He has his hand on the man's head, and he has the light, and then the light in his other hands. And we've always interpreted that, you know, or at least most of us interpret that as a symbolism of healing. And that's literally 4 days before this post comes out. Clear your mind and heal. I mean, I'm not going to write that off. To me, that's close enough to be like, all right, there's a there on that. So, but everybody forgot this, right? Back when all the FAGA were pro-Trump, none of them had issues with this. None of them. The only people that were pissed about this were mostly just Catholics, right? Some of my peeps. But Kanoka the Great puts out, 1 year ago, Trump posted himself as the Pope. Some people had a meltdown, and nobody remembers that today. Now, again, some of the significance back then, for those that don't remember, is this is before they announced the new Pope. And, you know, Trump doing the number one there. And a lot of us interpreted this, and we interpreted it right, because we said it before it happened. is Trump signifying that the next pope's going to be American? And then, holy shit, no pun intended, that didn't work out right. The next pope happens to be an American pope. Again, a lot of things being facilitated here to build a story and set a narrative. And part of that, the agenda is to expose people. So again, they all forgot this. That was back a long ass time ago. Let's keep going. But then the Democrat side that wanted to come out and hammer Trump said, y'all could he do that? And this post comes from Gina Milan. She puts out great content as well. It says, things that offend the left, Trump's meme. Things that don't offend the left, drag queens mocking the Last Supper. You guys remember this? And as a matter of fact, every account that was replaying the videos of this were getting taken down for copyright violations because they didn't want people to put this out in a negative light. Because the people that were doing it with positive messages and support, none of them were getting deplatformed or reported copyright. But everybody else that was essentially passing this message was. So Trump's healing photo equals blasphemy and distasteful, and Catholics gotta condemn him. But this was perfectly fine with the left and people that don't like Trump. Again, shows the hypocrisy. This was great. Andrew Colvett over there from TPUSA puts a pretty amazing response from President Trump to this reporter question. And let me play it. And then if you guys can't hear it because the sound on this one wasn't great, then I'll read it for you. But take a listen to this.
Trump's going to execute 4 more protesters, reportedly, including the first woman protester. What do you tell Iran?
Well, tell that to the Pope. What do you say? Tell that to the Pope.
You want to patch things up with the Pope?
That Iran is going to... Did you just hear that? Iran is going to execute 4 people, including a woman?
That was masterclass boomerang at the Pope. And for for the Pope being, taking a position that's definitely pro-Islamic and Muslim, even talking about I want to say within the Vatican or the Vatican's a portion of its property, opening up an area for, I think, them to be able to have their prayer or something like that. I might have my facts a little bit blurred on that, so someone can correct me and keep me on point in one of the chats. But Trump's saying, you're sitting here talking about Iran's going to execute it's one of its first women from the protesters. And he says, tell that to the Pope. He's saying they're great people. He's saying they ain't bad, that what I'm doing is wrong. Hit him with that question against exposing the hypocrisy. And then the last one on this section, Jordan Clark, Pope will be having a terrible May. And that comes from post 997. Enjoy the show. P equals Pope. Pope will be having a terrible May. Those who backed him will be pushed into the light, dark to light, and truth. And I want to say it was Tulsi Gabbard 2 days ago. Yeah, it wasn't yesterday. Yesterday was, or it might have been yesterday because it's Saturday, not Sunday. It might have been Friday or Thursday that Tulsi Gabbard came out and made the statement. And during that statement, she says, we're bringing it from dark to light. Caught my attention. I know I have that video queued up for next week. So we'll definitely hammer that down. But again, May's around the corner. Pope's going to have a bad May. I think we're about to potentially see that, folks. And then now we're going to land it and we'll bring it into our last segment. Get into some of these QComs potentially we saw. For those of you that saw this video, Paul White Gold Eagle posted, President Trump drops and leaves an open umbrella before boarding Air Force One. Everything he does is for a reason. 14 Q drops have the word umbrella. Think umbrella surveillance or end of the Truman Show, friends. So again, let me just start this from the beginning. I had it down there. It's just music. I'm not going to play the music because that music will get a copyright issue. But you see Trump go up there, turns around, makes no attempt to close it. So this is what interests me. So if he would have tried to close it and it didn't close, I can see him leaving it there. But you see right here, his right arm still down by his side. He turns around, his right arm still down by his side, and his left arm just drops it there. And he doesn't even look at it. So 100% that tells me it's intentional. And again, this is not, granted, we're not there, and not all, recordings that are posted are great in, 4K, right? But still, looking at the steps and everything, it doesn't look like there's a heavy downpour of water where it's like, hey, I'm just going to get in there and one of my peeps can take care of this for me, right? No, he just gets in there. And again, he doesn't even look at it. Like, everything here tells us he wants us to see this. He wants this action to be interpreted as something. And then you have the next guy that comes up and just walks right past it. Right? He just says, I got my stuff. Whoop, I'm going to go in there. And you'll see that coming up here momentarily. I'll try to fill the dead air since I'm not playing the music for you guys. See, the wind is kind of blowing it around. Here comes this guy. Says, my hands are full. Not my problem. Doesn't even look at it. Look at it's like the damn umbrella's Medusa, right? If somebody looks at it, they're gonna turn to stone. Like, this dude don't even look at it. He's just like, nah. It's almost like Trump or somebody said to this guy, don't even touch that umbrella. And this dude's like, I'm not even gonna look at it. I'm not even gonna look at it, right? Let's keep playing. And then you're gonna see this gentleman come up, Secret Service. And look all, and here's the thing, for those that say, oh, maybe the umbrella had a malfunction, look at him close it. He has zero issues trying to close it. Oop, there it is. Put it right over here. And I'm going to walk this way. Listen, whether we get this accurate or not, there's definitely a there. I am completely open to everybody's speculation to what message the president was delivering to us right there, but there was definitely a message. So let's take a look at some of the things that potentially could be the case, right? Let me unzoom this out real quick because it's too big now. This one I really like. This is post, maybe I went too small. 2548, right? It's December 4th. Who knows where the bodies are buried? Flynn is safe. Protect our patriots. And again, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just so you guys can see the umbrella parts right there. That's still too small for you guys. Let me zoom in a little bit more. There you go. Does FISA grant access to NSA umbrella collection? And so does that have relevance? Well, hell yeah. Hell yeah, that has relevance when they just did a midnight vote, right, to extend the FISA. And, again, that's conversation set up for more in depth next week on Monday's show and moving forward. So that gives us relevance here. And so is Trump dropping the umbrella to say, does FISA grant access to NSA umbrella collection? That is Trump saying that this is all intertwined somehow? Is this why Tulsi is trying to get InQtel over there under her control? I don't know, but I think all these are pretty good thought process to have to interpret what potentially that could be. And again, this particular one brings us to Flynn is safe. There's a lot of people out there trying to be anti-Flynn, right? I'm not one of them. Flynn is safe. We protect our patriots. But let's look at some other potentials. 4153, right? Because remember, we're also dealing with the Pope here. Crowdstrike. MS-13, 187 geolocation. MS-13, 187 date. MS-13 case summary notes. And again, right here, I highlighted for you guys so you can see it. FBI floor 7, assets, CIA pulled down umbrella, spy, Five Eyes, unofficial. And then again, push, Sessions, recuse. So there's a lot of stuff here that has context to what we're talking about tonight. But again, the CrowdStrike, and we're going to pull that up. I have one of, I believe it's Rubber Duck's posts that we're going to go here, and that'll be us just kind of ending the show here momentarily. But it's going to bring into this CrowdStrike, and you're going to see how CrowdStrike plays into this, at least based off an opinion that Rubber Duck has that I think is pretty solid. I believe it's Rubber Duck's. And then again, MS-13, and this starts bringing us into that conversation surrounding Seth Rich. So April 11th, if we go to the day that all this went down, because again, Dates matter. And it just says 17. That the boss trying to signal us something there? Could be. I thought it was definitely worth posting. And then this one too, also on April 11th, the day that the whole umbrella debacle went down. This is post 33 tall for those that want to read it. I'm not going to read the whole thing because this, again, is a longer one. But think blockade. And what ended up happening 2 days later? That's when Trump says, well, now we're going to block the Strait of Hormuz. And so the blockade has relevance to this. So all these things fall within the context of what was he signaling to us. And so again, hindsight will be 2020. So over the next few days, I'm pretty sure we'll revisit this. But okay, I saw something comment, but we're good. So this should bring us into, yes, Rubber Duck. So Rubber Duck posts one day. Let me go up here. So this Catherine Hedridge puts new records via DNA Gabbard and Representative Rick Crawford, Atkinson transcripts, first Trump impeachment plus whistleblower motive. And then she cites, can you clarify that question? This goes between Atkinson and Ratcliffe. But I want to bring it down to what Rubber Duck put down here. One day after the assassination of Seth Rich, the DNC paid Crowdstrike $98,000. Again, why does that matter? Well, let's go back to this post. 4153, May 8th. Crowdstrike testimony, DNC, right? And so let's bring it back to Rubber Ducks here. One day after the assassination of Seth Rich, the DNC paid Crowdstrike $98,000. 1 month later, Seth Rich's friend Sean Lucas, who was a DNC process server and served the DNC with the election fraud lawsuit, was found dead. 1 day later, the DNC paid Crowdstrike $113,000. So Seth Rich dies. A day later, they paid Crowdstrike a little over $98,000. A month later, Seth Rich's friend dies, the one that served them with the lawsuit. And DNC pays Crowdstrike a little over $113,000. I think that's pretty damn interesting. He wraps it up with Podesta, DNC, Crowdstrike, Trump's perfect call, Ukraine. And that's regarding this unclassified portion. The president, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say Crowdstrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people, the server. They say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of things that went on. You see how the timing of all this stuff, folks? Remember Metabiota? Make sure you tune in Tuesday night on DEF CON, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Do not want to miss next week's DEF CON. That's all I can say about that. I'm telling you, you do not want to miss next week's DEF CON with me and Josh. If you're unfamiliar with it, you've never seen an episode, you can watch that here on, watch it on Rumble. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on the X channels. You want to search out Badlands Media. Me and Josh do DEF CON over there. You do not want to miss Tuesday night show. That's all I'm going to say about that. You do not want to miss it. Let's continue with Rubber Duck here. Did you know that one day after the assassination of Seth Rich, the DNC paid Crowdstrike? And again, that one, the perfect call. See how everything is connected. And then again, this is to Catherine Hedridge. All right, so this was, I believe there was one more I wanted to show. Here we go. Remember Donald Trump's perfect phone call with Zelensky where he talked about the Crowdstrike report? You didn't think the plea deal was the end, did you? I'm telling you guys, Rubber Duck is just, he is on this. I need to bring him on the show. He's an anonymous account, so we would be looking at a static Rubber Duck image the whole night. But me and him agree on a lot of this. We do have some different takes on some things, but for the most part, I think we line up. So let me go full screen with me. Well, actually, we got the last two. This is how we're going to wrap up the show. So remember, we talked about this in the beginning. One of the first posts. And as a matter of fact, we still have it up. Let me see. It was right about, let's see. Here we go. The White House on April 4th. God bless our troops and God bless the United States of America. And so now let's go to how we're ending it tonight with these last two posts. And then we'll do Rumble Rants and Super Chats. And then I got a video on the way out. Some of you guys have seen it already. April 17th, the American flag. You know, yesterday was the 17th. And I think that's kind of an important date for those that follows the boards. But something significant happened today as well. And General Flynn responded to, I believe it was Sun Tzu, who had posted a text conversation between him and the general quite some time ago. And it was a conversation that meant a lot to Sun Tzu. And in that text message conversation, General Flynn responded, where we go on, we go all. And then there's the entire argument that people have had from then, or even before then to now, with the general denounces Q, you know, but he did promote it. You know, there's this argument, right? And a lot of us have learned how to do that dance, right? If, you know, because me and Josh and others get, when the general comes on your show, why don't you ask him about Q? And he's already answered it. Why would I ask him a question he's already answered? It's retarded. If he ever has a change of heart or something, what do you guys think? That he's gonna come out and say, yeah, you know, I'm part of the team and this is what we've been doing? Like, come on, folks. Like, let's be smart here. But of course, the general is absolutely a brilliant man. He understands psychological operations in this world, right? And understanding that and understanding people's positions. When I saw Sun Tzu do that post, I said, this is going to be interesting. Right? It was like, ooh, it was one of those moments. And the general responded again. And this happened today. And he put where we go on, we go all. And I think things are going to get interesting regarding those conversations. So again, 17th, and then let's bring it to this right here. Also from April 17th for the Delta of yesterday is together we win, where we go one, we go all. And I think that was just so fitting given what happened today with the statement from the general. So let me go full screen with me. Let me pull this off. Let's get the Rumble rants on here so I can share those with you guys. We're at the tail end of this show. And let me zoom in on these so you guys can see them. And then let me see if we have any super chats, because I can do those real quick. No super chats, but let's thank the people that joined us again on YouTube. So shout out again to GG1332, became a member of our YouTube family. And a shout out to Samuel Moore, 784, who became part of our YouTube family. So now let's bring on our Rumble rant so you guys can all see these people. I can give them a shout out. And like always, Kim K, start from the bottom. Now we're her. $10 from Flying Storm. And again, thank you, Flying Storm, for gifting those subscriptions. Solid thank you for that. What is this at Alpha? Someone posted this. Is it comms of the White House DoorDash lady and pilot used AI? So I know what we're talking about. So earlier in the show, we showed the video where Trump talks about the Red Cross and you saw the DoorDash lady. Well, there's a picture and some video going around that lady's the same one as the pilot. I'll tell you right now, absolutely not even a chance. One, that the lady they're saying is the pilot is not even conditioned to be a pilot, nor at that age are they going to be a fighter pilot. So no, I don't believe at all that there's a remote chance that's legitimate. That's my take on that, Flying Storm. And then $10 Flying Storm, coffee with Sandra, coffee talk with Sandra. Again, this is the one that reminded me. Sandra, if you're watching, I'm so freaking sorry. You guys, make sure you're supporting it. And again, if somebody has the link to tonight's show that they did, put it in the chat or drop it in the comments. And you guys go over there and say, Sandra, you gotta forgive Alpha and still let him do it. You know, he was out there saving the world. But again, make sure you guys go support Coffee Talk with Sandra on the social media platforms and on Rumble as well. $10 from Lisa 888. I'm old. SoCal hippie cowgirl. I ride, suck at roping, but I can shoot. What the F, Texas? So Lisa 888, Stagecoach, coming up next weekend. So, you know, if you're not familiar with that, you know, that's a heck of a country music festival out here that we have in Southern California, Coachella Valley area. So if you don't know about it, now you do. $40 coming in from Desert Jewel 17. Alpha, so great to come home from work and see a Just Alpha on the schedule tonight. What a treat. This is my #1 show, and I truly look forward to it every week. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for that, Desert Jewels. Thank you for the support. We'll normally have it on Saturdays. This is when people are supposed to be at 9 p.m. Eastern, but we will have, Just Alpha on Mondays. So, but again, I wanted to make sure we caught up before this Monday show, so we didn't do a freaking marathon like tonight kind of turned into. Dollar for dollar from Phenom 1023. FBI fraud baked in. You are not wrong on that one. $10 coming in from Difo. See Apple CEO Tim Cook's others.uk with 2 leaders resigning on the same day this year, and 25 plus Trident name companies all pushing AI integration. I did not see the Tim Cook one, so thanks for that, Di. I'm going to leave that open so I can go check that one afterwards. $20 coming in from Swell Texas Gal at Swell Texas Gal. So you guys make sure you go and follow so to support this Patriot. Now, if I'm not doing so, I will make sure to do so. So I'll leave that one highlighted as well. And then $10 again from Swell Texas Gal. Congratulations. Grandbabies are such a blessing. Thank you for that. Make sure you guys keep my daughter and her babies in your prayers. $50 coming in from Hope Continues. Right on, Hope. Thank you. Great show, Alpha. Always enjoy your insights. Thank you very much. And holy $400. Wow. Soar 47. Thank you. Wow. Congrats, Alpha, on becoming a grandpa. Wow. Thank you for that. Wow. I'd be speechless if I didn't have to do a freaking podcast. Wow, $400. I don't think I've ever gone a Rumble rant that high before. On my shows. I know we had the owner from Rumble on DEF CON hook up me and Josh one time, but wow, thank you for that, Sor. Very, very much appreciated. $17 coming in from Ms. Rhea Freedom Fighter. Just want to remind everyone that my lovely Iranian friend calls Trump good uncle. He fled Iran in 1980. Absolutely. A lot of great people in Iran, folks. Go look at the size of their Christian community and Jewish community in Iran. Those numbers will surprise you. $5 from Ms. Rhea Freedom Fighter again. Remember all of the memes with Obama as Jesus? Yes. I think even one of the big magazines, I don't know if it was People or Time, even had something that kind of depicted him as Jesus or something at least close to that reference. And so that is our last Rumble rant. And no more super chats. So we will close in prayer. That's something that we always do on the Just Alpha show. And then again, for those of you stuck around, there's a video or a song that I wrote that turned into a video from some stuff that I saw put together on YouTube that I thought was pretty cool and went along with the words from the song. But I just want to say, guys, thank you, everybody that came out tonight and supported. We have a huge freaking audience, almost 3,000 people watching live on Rumble. We have, let's take a look, over 1,000 people watching on YouTube and 2,500 people watching on the other platforms. Like, we're talking like almost 7,000 people watching live right now. You guys are awesome. So thank you from me and my family. Thank you. So with that, let's say a prayer and then we'll play that last song. Father, I thank you for my family. I thank you for this audience. I thank you for everything that you've put in my way, the things that I've liked and the things that I've struggled with. I ask that you continue to protect my path. I ask that you continue to keep my ego and my motive from taking me off the mission that you've put me on. Father, I ask that you reach out to the people in my audience that you have a mission for, that you help them to recognize that they're important, and that you give them the courage for the situations for them to develop the courage that they need for the mission that's coming up. Father, for the people in my audience that are struggling with some type of illness or medical condition, I ask that you breathe their miracle. And if it's something that is not meant to be healed now, I ask that you give them strength and peace to endure whatever testimony you have put in front of them. Father, I also ask that you continue to protect our military and to protect our children in this country, and that you continue to enhance our discernment and protect our minds. Father, if we're going down the wrong path, please guide us onto the right path, individually and as a nation and as humanity. We pray and we ask all this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen. Folks, Just Alpha, you do not want to miss Monday's show. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern for the Middle East in 30 minutes each with Ghost, and then tune in at 11 p.m. Eastern for Q After Hours with me and Josh. I think you guys will enjoy that one. And then back on Monday night, we will have Just Alpha again. And then again, do not miss Tuesday's show on DEFCON. It's going to be something. It's going to be something. Special guests. That's the only hint I'm going to give you. Special guests. And no, it's not somebody you've ever seen on any of our shows. But it's going to be pretty damn important. So with that, you guys, do me a solid. If you haven't done so already, share this out. Support the people down in the description that support this show and enable me to keep it free, and pray for our country. Good night. Semper Fi.
I see that flag in the sunrise, flying high above the land. I think about the soldiers who never made it back again. Boots in foreign deserts, crosses in the rain. Freedom ain't a gift, son, it's written in their names. Hear the echo of their footsteps, hear the prayers of mothers prayed. Every star upon that banner is a price that someone paid. We built this country on faith and sacrifice, on the blood of the brave who laid down their lives. From the soldiers on the front lines to the towns back home, from the veterans standing to the truth online. Digital soldiers holding the line. We built this country on faith, patriotism and sacrifice. We built this country on MAGA. From the farmers and the truckers to the ones who wear the badge, from the miners and the teachers to the boys who raised that flag. Every freedom that we're breathing came from someone standing tall. When America was threatened, they were ready for the call. Hear the thunder of the people, hear the freedom in their cry. We won't bow to the darkness while old glory still flies. We built this country on faith and sacrifice, on the blood of the brave who laid down their lives. From the soldiers on the front lines to the town back home, from the veterans standing to the truth online. Digital soldiers holding the line. We built this country on faith, patriotism and sacrifice. We built this country on MAGA. Fold that flag with honor, lay those heroes down to rest. But remember what they fought for, freedom ain't finished yet. We built this country on faith and sacrifice, on the tears of the families and the brave who paid the price. If the day ever comes when freedom's on the line, every patriot standing side by side, every voice rising for the red, white, and